My mom insisted on opening the windows for ventilation when a typhoon was approaching. I told her it was dangerous during the typhoon and urged her not to open them. Instead, she sneaked out and opened the balcony doors and windows in the middle of the night while I was asleep. In an instant, the floor-to-ceiling window shattered, and the typhoon rampaged into the living room. I was sleeping on the sofa when the wind lifted me half a meter into the air. I begged my mother to pull me to safety, but terrified I'd drag her down with me, she kicked me away. Don't blame me for being cruel. Once you're gone, your apartment and all your money will go to your brother. I was swept away by the typhoon, fell from the 18th floor, and died on the spot. My mother promptly cooked a pot of hairy crabs for my father and brother to celebrate, stubbornly insisting, if she had just agreed to open the window earlier, none of this would have happened. She and my father drained my bank account, gave my house to my brother for his wedding, and squeezed every last bit of value out of me. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. I was reborn 3 hours before the typhoon hit. My mother was on her way with the whole family, luggage in hand, coming to seek refuge with me. Sweetheart, come pick us up. It's so windy out here. 1. Come get us. It's really windy outside. On the other end of the video call, my mother stood at the entrance of the high-speed railway station building, her voice, accompanied by the howling wind, pounded against my eardrums. My calf suddenly cramped, and I was drenched in sweat, gasping for breath. My previous life, I fell to my death from the 18th floor. At that time, a typhoon hit. My mom insisted on opening the windows for ventilation, sneaking to open the balcony doors and windows in the middle of the night, causing the floor-to-ceiling window to shatter. Countless shards of glass scattered across the living room. A typhoon with winds reaching level 17 suddenly burst into the living room, and I, fast asleep on the sofa, was caught off guard and swept half a meter into the air. My mom hid behind the sofa, her eyes wide with terror as she stared over. The neighbors gradually woke up, and one by one, lights flickered on in the darkness. There was no time to think about why the doors and windows, which I had triple-checked and locked before going to bed, were now opened. I clung desperately to the balcony door frame, screaming for help to my mother who was hiding nearby. Mom, save me. The rain hammered against the window, soaking my cotton pajamas. Drops landed on my eyelids, so cold they sent shivers through my body. But instead of pulling me to safety, my mother kicked me. Get lost. Don't drag me down. I stared wide-eyed in disbelief. The sharp pain from my fingers shooting up to my brain reminded me that this was real. My mom kicked me hard, as if venting her pent-up anger. You only give $5,000 a month for household expenses. Don't think I don't know you make $30,000. Your brother wants to buy a house, but you won't even lend him the down payment. I don't have a daughter as heartless as you. My heart feels like it's been squeezed by someone. My mom has always boasted that she doesn't favor boys over girls, always treating my brother and me equally. Only now, for the very first time, am I hearing her true feelings. A bolt of lightning tore across the night sky. Her face was twisted into a look of sheer ferocity I had never seen before. You won't even let your own brother stay with you for a few more days. Fine, don't blame me for what happens next. If you die, your house and all your money will go to your brother. Another vicious kick landed. My mother put so much force into it that she nearly slipped on the wet pavement. A sickening crack echoed. My finger bones twisted and broke, forcing me to let go of the doorframe. Mom. I was helplessly swept up by the typhoon, my white nightgown billowing and flapping in the wind. Oh my God, someone's going to get killed. Shouts of alarm echoed through the building. A kind soul threw open a window, reaching out to grab me, but their fingers only managed to brush against the cool fabric of my clothes. Thud. It was followed by a dull, heavy sound. My blood spread in fragmented webs, mingling with the rain on the ground and flowing into the gurgling sewer. The last glimpse I could see, it was my mother on the 18th floor, casting a detached, condescending glance. Good girl. Just then, my mother's voice called out again, snapping me back to reality. In the slightly out-of-focus frame, the fine lines on her sallow face creased into a sly, calculating smile. Hurry up and pick us up. The wind at the Shanghai high-speed railway station is so strong. Big cities are really something. I came to my senses and said coldly, I told you I was busy with work. Don't come. Take the high-speed train back now. Or else find your own hotel. I won't entertain you, too. After hanging up the phone, I immediately turned the car around, watching the GPS location move steadily away from the high-speed rail station. I finally let out a long sigh of relief. My younger brother failed his college entrance exam and idled away for 2 years. My parents pulled some strings to get him into a cram school in Shanghai. This time they came to me, hoping I would let my brother stay at my place during his retake period and take care of his meals and daily needs. I'm currently in the upward phase of my career, and with the exorbitant housing prices in Shanghai, my old, small apartment can barely fit one person, let alone two, so I refused and suggested my brother stay at the dormitory. But my mother started to complain, criticizing me for contributing too little to the household expenses and for not proactively lending money to help my brother buy a wedding house. She scolded me for being unwilling to contribute to the family, calling me an ungrateful ingrate, thus, a simple matter that became the trigger for my mother to kill me with her own hands during the typhoon. The radio in the car began to broadcast a super typhoon has made landfall in South Province, with maximum winds reaching 417 or higher. It is the strongest autumn typhoon to hit our country since 1949. All citizens are urged to take precautions. Without a second thought, I drove to the farmer's market. My parents came to Shanghai to see me this time without any prior notice. In my previous life, I was completely unprepared. With the typhoon bearing down, the four of us had to cram into the tiny, run-down one-bedroom apartment I'd bought, and we devoured all our stockpiled food in just 2 days. This time, I rushed straight to the farmer's market and stocked up on long-lasting potatoes and baby bok choy, along with frozen seafood and hot pot base. I also grabbed several crates of fruit and drinks, practically filling the entire trunk. Finally, I went to a nearby Sichuan restaurant that was still open and ordered several dishes. Couples sliced beef, mouth-watering chicken, twice-cooked pork, maoshua wine. Boss, make it quick, I'll take everything to go. The takeout containers were piled high, almost like a small mountain, stacked in the back seat behind the driver. The phone kept flashing with incoming call alerts during the wait. It was my parents constantly bombarding me with calls. Good daughter, now that your parents are here, how can you just let us go back like this? Mandy, we came all the way from home to see you, and this is how you treat us. It's like we raised you in vain, right, sis? How could you be so heartless? Our parents came all the way to see you. How can you face them? My mom also sent a voice message, her tone full of, Mom brought your favorite homegrown eggs. At least let me deliver them to you. I didn't mean any harm. In the photo, some of the eggs she brought were even cracked, with egg yolks spilling all over the red plastic bag. Reading these messages, I just scoffed to myself. The difference between love and indifference is painfully obvious. Follow the money, and you'll find where the affection lies. My younger brother contributes nothing at home, yet he lives off our parents' pensions, buys the latest iPhone every year, wears sneakers that cost thousands, and lives a more comfortable life than I do, even though I work in the high-paying tech industry with a monthly salary of $30,000 after taxes. $20,000 goes straight to the bank for my mortgage and renovation loan. On top of that, my mom demands another $5,000 for household expenses every month. I'm constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I let out a bitter laugh and immediately blocked all three of them on WeChat. Then, using the restaurant's Wi-Fi, I started frantically downloading TV shows and web series onto my phone. I remember how the typhoon snapped the power lines, leaving our entire neighborhood in the dark for days. Right now, the typhoon is due to hit in an hour and a half. As I returned home, laden with supplies and ready to fetch the handcart to unload, I was suddenly struck by the sight of damp, watery footprints on the doormat. Something's not right. Just as I thought, the next second, I opened the door. The room was soaked with water. A few umbrellas, dripping with filthy black water, were propped haphazardly in the entryway to dry, and my brother took off his socks, his dark toes stepping onto my beige bed, and he sprawled out right next to my underwear. My dad was smoking, with cigarette butts scattered all over the floor, and the carpet had several burn holes. Meanwhile, my mom was rummaging through my fridge, with several raw beef pieces lying on the floor beside her. She saw me and called out, "Oh, Mandy, you're back. I see you've got plenty of beef in the fridge. I'll make a stew for your brother later." "3, I said sharply. "How did you get into my house? I told you to go home." My brother let out a disdainful chuckle. "Mom already found out where you live. Besides, you know what I do for a living." I took a deep breath. For the past 2 years since high school, my brother has been an apprentice locksmith, so he easily picked the lock on my door and walked in. "This is trespassing. I'm calling the police." My mom immediately grabbed my phone when she heard that. "We're family. What are you making a fuss about? We agreed to come see you. And look, we brought eggs." My mom proudly pulled out several bags of eggs, pickles, and homemade buns she had brought from home. The steamed bun is as hard as if it had been sitting out for half a month, but if you say she's frugal, she picks the most expensive items from my fridge, things like salmon, beef, and seafood that friends brought over and that I myself couldn't bear to eat. This comparison is truly heartbreaking. My mom is also pointing out flaws in my house. "Mandy, this bed of yours is pink. Toss it out and get a color your brother can use. Also, your brother will be staying with you for the next year. You better take good care of him. He's still growing, so make sure to buy him plenty of things like salmon and seafood." I listened to her go on and on. I clenched my fists, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The typhoon is about to hit. Even if I call the police now, they won't make it in time. Looks like staying home is out of the question. I forced a smile as I looked at the room in complete disarray. "Okay, Mom, I gave you a chance. Don't blame me for what happens Next, after all, it's not unusual for a few people to die in a typhoon, right? While my mom was cooking, I immediately called the insurance agent I know from downstairs. Hurry over, I need to buy home insurance and personal accident insurance. I tried to persuade my parents again. This is my friend, who sells insurance. I'm thinking of getting a policy for our whole family. What do you think? My mom stammered. How much does this insurance cost? I said directly. No matter the cost, I'll cover it. Hearing they wouldn't have to pay, my parents exchanged a glance and agreed. That works. I purchased the highest level of personal accident insurance. If something happens to my family, I can get $10 million. While signing the insurance, my parents shielded the paper with their fingers, both writing my brother's name in the beneficiary section, and sneaking glances at me. My mom let out a few awkward laughs and explained dryly, "Your brother isn't as capable as you are. After all, as parents, we have to make sure he has something to fall back on." I took my mother's hand and said sincerely, "I understand, Mom. After all, he is the only son in the family." My mother nodded repeatedly with satisfaction. After signing the contract, I followed the insurance agent back to his place. I kept urging him on as I watched him personally enter the contract into the computer and complete the entire process, ensuring it would take effect the very next day. At that moment, the typhoon was just half an hour away. Outside the window, wind and rain lashed against the trees, bending them sideways. Peering through the floor-to-ceiling window, my mother sighed. "What's going on with the weather in Shanghai?" I picked up the umbrella from the entryway. "Mom, Dad, the typhoon's coming. There's no food at home, so I'm heading to the supermarket to get some groceries." My brother quickly called out to me, "Mandy, I'm coming with you. Staying at home is so boring." My mom quickly patted me on the arm. "It's windy out there. Look how the trees are swaying. It's too dangerous. Just let your sister go." I had no time to argue with them, so I closed the door with a cold smile and headed next door. My neighbor next door is a friend of mine. She bought the place across from me and recently finished renovating it. Since I supervised the renovation for her, I have a key. I sent her a message saying I'd be staying at her place for a few days. She agreed right away. She even sent me a red envelope with 50,000 yuan. With the typhoon coming, could you please make sure all the doors and windows at my place are locked? Thanks for taking care of it, and please stay safe. I glanced at my watch. Only 10 minutes left. I hurried downstairs and started moving all the fruits and vegetables I bought at the farmer's market earlier. After I had everything ready, I finally had a chance to open a cold Coke, chug it down, and lie back on the couch to catch my breath. I happened to turn my head and look. Outside the window, a storm was clearly brewing. The entire sky had turned an eerie pinkish purple, trees were swaying, and the plastic awnings of the street vendors below flapped violently. My social media feed was flooded with posts about it. My shorts, the wind took my shorts, went out for a stroll, and neither of my feet would listen to me. The traffic lights on the street got blown away. My expression turned grave. The typhoon has finally arrived. 5 in no time. The typhoon was trending on social media. In the short videos, the typhoon wreaked havoc. At first, people were still making jokes until houses were blown to pieces, coconut trees as thick as several people could encircle were snapped in half, and pedestrians were tossed about by the strong wind outdoors, almost lifted off the ground. It was truly alarming to witness. Many saw the power and ruthlessness of the typhoon and, marveling at the mysterious force of nature, prayed for the disaster to pass quickly. The authorities quickly issued a notice: a typhoon is approaching Shanghai. Please take precautions, avoid going out unnecessarily, lock all windows and doors, and stay safe. I sighed, almost compulsively, and checked all the windows and doors in the house again. Only then did my mind relax. Growling, my stomach suddenly let out a loud rumble. It was only then I realized how exhausted I was, my stomach completely empty and growling with hunger, and so I reheated all the leftovers I had packed up earlier. The rich, bubbling aroma of the spicy blood stew filled the room, its pungent chili oil making my mouth water uncontrollably. I turned on the air purifier, my forehead beaded with sweat from the heat, and then cracked open a case of the mango pomelo sago I'd just bought. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was my mom calling. I slowly ate a few pieces of tripe, letting the phone ring for a long time before casually answering it. My mom's accusatory voice immediately came through the line. "Mandy, did you block me on WeChat? Why haven't I been able to get through?" I pretended to be sorry and explained, "Maybe WeChat is down." "What's up, Mom? Just asking when you're coming back. Your brother wants to eat hairy crabs. Bring some back for him." My grip tightened as I looked out at the heavy rain, feeling a mix of irony and obedience in my reply. But now the typhoon and rain have suddenly intensified. My umbrella is broken, and I'm stuck at the supermarket. What should I do, Mom? Can anyone come pick me up? As soon as I asked her to come pick me up, on the other end of The line, my mom fell silent. I know they're not worried about me, but about the food, after all. I never cook at home. They can search my place all they want, but all they'll find are a few bags of chips and some meat in the fridge. But with things being so dangerous outside, it's even more impossible for them to come and pick me up. Sure enough, my mom replied, just stay hidden in the supermarket for now. I said again, Mom, I'm really hungry right now. There's food at the supermarket, but I don't have enough money. Could you transfer me some? My mom said impatiently, money, money, money. You're already working and still asking the family for money. You don't act like a daughter at all. Even if I give you the money, you can't bring the food back. She hung up the phone. I held my phone. Still in a daze. When I was very young, my mother could treat my brother and me equally, even splitting a meat bun in half for us. When did her concern turn into demands? Not only did she demand household expenses from me every month, but she also expected me to pay when household appliances broke, and when she was sick, she would call me first, asking me to take leave from work and return home to take care of her. She was shrewdly calculating right in front of me, playing her smug little games. When I really think about it, it's like my mother never loved me at all, just like in my last life, when she insisted on opening the window during the typhoon, even though I warned her repeatedly about the danger. She acted like she couldn't understand a word I said and snuck to open the window in the middle of the night. Is she really that naive? Actually, no, it was just a test of my compliance for her. The more distressed, angry, and agitated I became, the more she watched. A dark, secret thrill of domination would stir within her. Instead, she had me under her control. Her power over me was absolute. No matter how much I resented it. She's my mother. What could I possibly do to her? I just don't know about this lifetime. What if my mom insists on opening the window while I'm not home? Suddenly, I remembered that I installed a surveillance camera at home. Opened the surveillance software. My mom cooked all the seafood and beef from the fridge, and the whole family ate until our mouths were greasy. After my brother had his fill, he kicked the eggs my mom brought for me. These eggs stink. Throw them all away later. And that bread is so hard it could be used as a rock. While stuffing her mouthful of beef, my mom said, your sister isn't easy to fool anymore. My dad glanced out the window. It's so late, and I'm still waiting for her to bring me back some cigarettes. I wonder where she's fooling around. I thought to myself, I just hope they can keep this up for the next few days. Since the arrival of the typhoon had been forecasted, our company also notified us of a holiday lately. All I've been doing is reading novels and binge-watching shows and variety programs. Turn on the projector, sink into the beanbag chair. It's the epitome of cozy living, that is, until 3 days later, when my door was suddenly pounded on. Bang, bang, bang. I was startled, and when I checked the video doorbell, I realized it was my mom at the door. So that's it. They've eaten all the food at home and are now borrowing from neighbors. Due to the typhoon, all food delivery platforms are closed, and the neighborhood supermarkets have long since shut down. Food was hard to come by unless you were willing to pay a premium, so she had no choice but to go door to door, asking for help. I didn't open the door. Instead, I pressed my ear against it to listen. Getting no response, my mother looked puzzled and then knocked on another neighbor's door down the hallway. As soon as the door of the neighboring house opened, my mom immediately said, I'm from next door. Do you have any food? I'll have my daughter pay you later. The neighbor glanced at my mom and said, we have instant noodles, 200 for a pack. Isn't this robbery? Fine, have it your way. The neighbor next door slammed the door shut with a bang. My mom was hopping mad with worry and started frantically calling me again. Mandy, you're at the supermarket, right? You must have plenty of food. Hurry home and bring some for the family. I can't, Mom. I'm still stuck at the supermarket. The wind outside is way too strong. I can't get out. Well, how about you send Mom some money? She can find someone to buy some food. Just send 10,000 yuan for now. I continued to refuse. Mom, don't you remember, I already used this month's salary to pay the mortgage. I don't have any money left, and I'm starving at the supermarket too. My mom got furious. Then you should find a way to steal some food from the supermarket and bring it home. Your father and I came all this way to see you. You can't just stand there and watch us starve to death in your house, can you? I shrugged. We'll see. After the call ended, my mom's eyes turned red with anger, and she came home and started smashing things. When Mandy gets back, I'll teach her a lesson. I told her long ago, what's the point of a girl studying in a big city? She'll only end up with a wild heart. From now on, I need to figure out a way to make her hand over her entire 30,000 yuan monthly salary to me. She also needs to reimburse me for the instant noodles this time. Seeing no one paying attention to her, she snatched my dad's phone and yelled at him, Did you hear that? Your good daughter is Really something now, not listening to me at all. My dad was busy watching a live stream of a pretty girl doing PK and acting cute. After his phone was snatched away, he slapped my mom across the face. "What are you yelling for? Don't disturb my live stream." My mom stood there, stunned, covering her face, looking at my brother as if seeking help. My brother was too busy gaming, cursing under his breath, and didn't even notice her. My mother bit her lip, at a loss for words. In the past, I would have stepped in front of my mother and berated my father and brother. Only after I'd finished my heated tirade would my mother step forward with a gracious smile to play the peacemaker. "Oh, Mandy, don't be so harsh. Your father and brother didn't mean it. Sweetie, what would you like to eat? I'll make it for you." Perhaps she was also thinking of the past, as a distant look briefly crossed her face. In the end, with the red handprints still visible on her face, she bought a few packs of instant noodles under the neighbor's strange and judgmental stares. 7. I wonder if it was because of the argument, but that evening, my mom complained again about chest discomfort. "Felix, could you open the window for a while? How can you not open the window for ventilation all day?" My dad immediately shouted at her to stop. "Are you crazy? You're opening the window during a typhoon. If you want to die, go ahead and do it yourself. But don't drag me down with you." After being scolded, my mom calmed down. I gave a sardonic smile, so my mom can also compromise after all. So, in her heart, I was the outsider all along. My mom, having been yelled at by my dad, hung her head, looking upset and lost in thought. Not long after, my phone rang. "Sweetheart, I miss you." I stayed silent. My mother started complaining nonstop, saying my father and brother did nothing all day, the food at home was running low, and she was worried sick. At this point, she grumbled again. "My chest feels so tight right now, and your father won't even let me open a window." I immediately spoke up. "Then it must be my dad's fault. So what if it's open? What's the big deal? Don't you worry, the windows in our house are solid." My mom, as if she found a kindred spirit, said excitedly, "Right, it's just opening a window. Your dad is overreacting. We're not going out, just staying indoors." "How dangerous can the typhoon be? How dangerous can it be?" I smiled. My mom has lived inland her whole life, almost never been to coastal areas, so she has no idea how powerful typhoons can be. I remember in my previous life, after the statistics for this typhoon, it resulted in hundreds of deaths for a full 2 hours. I just went along with what my mom said. She was very satisfied and felt a negligible amount of pity for her daughter, and she urged me, "Good girl, remember to eat well when you're out." Human hearts are truly strange. When I genuinely treat my mom well, she scolds me like an enemy when I just casually deal with her. I'm almost becoming her precious daughter. I chuckled to myself and said to the person on the other end of the phone, "Okay, Mom, could you send me some money?" 3 seconds later, my mom hung up the phone. Not long after, the instant noodles I'd bought were all gone. My mom was still left worrying all by herself. My dad and brother, however, were as if nothing had happened, engrossed in their phones on the surveillance footage. My mom was so angry that she was pounding her chest and repeatedly complaining of chest tightness, but no one paid her any attention. Even in my previous life, only I cared about her. At first, I tried to reason with her gently, explaining that the typhoon was severe and opening the window was dangerous. I even showed her videos others had taken of the property damage caused by the storm, but she insisted the videos were fake, claiming such incidents were rare exceptions. I then suggested turning on the air conditioner's ventilation system instead. I told her if she still felt short of breath or tightness in her chest, I'd take her for a checkup at the hospital once the typhoon passed. Yet my mother, wiping away tears, said running the AC was a waste of money, and so was going to the hospital. All she wanted was to open the window for a little while, and I wouldn't even allow that. She accused me of not listening to her, of mistreating an elderly person, and called me utterly unfilial. I tried to reason with her, but she only talked about feelings. Isn't that just being unreasonable? Back then, I had no way to defend myself and could only patiently appease her. Never did I expect to end up completely destroyed. Only after I died did I realize that while I treated her like a mother, she treated me like a servant. In this life, without a servant like me around, she stopped putting on airs, but I never expected she actually went and opened the window again. 8. That night, I stayed up late binge-watching a show. On the security camera, I was surprised to see my mom walk to the edge of the balcony and look around cautiously. There was a soft click. She had quietly opened the window. "The typhoon today isn't very strong." As a slight chill entered the room, my mom muttered softly, "I told you, how could this wind possibly blow someone away? There's no wind that strong." She, unsurprisingly, let out a tch. My brother sneezed on the couch, startling my mom so much that she quickly closed the window. Turning around, I saw my brother rubbing his nose and cursing the mid laner in the game. Completely ignoring her, this was the first time. For the next few days, my mom would secretly open the window for a while every night. Afterwards, she wiped the rain off the balcony as if nothing had happened. Even when my brother had a cold, she still opened the window. On this day, a strong wind blew into the room and knocked over the floor lamp. My brother caught her in the act, sniffling and yelling, "You old hag. Why'd you open the window? Don't you know I'm sick?" My mom flinched in fright. My brother shot her a vicious glare, then slammed the window shut, nearly catching her fingers. Afterward, my mom immediately called me, crying about my brother's misdeeds. I continued to encourage her and agree with her. "Mom, you're right. Colds need fresh air to get better. The air in the house isn't circulating, and you might get infected too. With your age, getting sick could be hard to treat." And so, when my mom got into yet another argument with my brother about opening the window, she declared with righteous conviction, "Your sister is a college student. She says opening the window is good for you. What do you know?" But my brother slapped her directly. Slap. My mother covered her face, her expression full of disbelief. This was the first time my brother had ever laid a hand on her. A young man in his 20s gave her a powerful slap, leaving her right cheek swollen and bloodied. My brother stood still, breathing heavily as he glared at my mother with hatred. My father sat on the sofa smoking, glanced at my mother through the smoke after hearing the commotion, then shifted his gaze back to the live stream of a beautiful woman on his phone. The invisible father, the furious brother. There was my mother, head bowed, silent and utterly dazed. Her phone had been knocked to the floor, its dimly lit screen displaying my name. My mother's gaze remained fixed there for a long time. It was as if, in that moment, she finally realized who truly cared for her. My brother spat on the ground. "Crazy old woman, you're always the one causing trouble, obsessing over opening the window all day long. Go make dinner now." My mother fell silent for a moment, picked up her apron, and shuffled wearily into the kitchen. A few seconds later, loud wailing came from the kitchen. That night, my brother woke up hungry in the middle of the night. These days, he has been hogging my bed alone. My dad sleeps on the sofa, and my mom has to sleep on the floor. My brother kicked my mom in the face. "Got any food? I'm starving. Don't want instant noodles." Perhaps it was the accumulated negative emotions from the day taking their toll. After being kicked awake, my mom paused for a moment, then suddenly erupted. She threw off the blanket and shouted, "Am I your Felix family's nanny? A few days ago, I said I had no money to buy food, and all of you just turned a deaf ear. Now you're hungry again. Where am I supposed to cook for you?" My dad woke up, annoyed. "What are you yelling about at this late hour?" My mom only grew more aggrieved as she spoke. "You two don't treat me like a human being at all. Only my daughter cares about me." After saying that, she darted to the balcony. "I have no say in this household. I can't even open a window without checking with you two. I can't take this anymore." She snapped open the window. Who would have thought that after opening the windows for so many days, nothing had gone wrong? And at this moment, bang, the entire floor-to-ceiling window suddenly shattered, sending shards flying in all directions, making a sound like an explosion. In the dark, I sat expressionless in front of the monitor, glancing at the time, September 28th today, the very day I died in my previous life. 9. The floor-to-ceiling window shattered. My mother was at a complete loss, and her first instinct was to shift the blame. How was I supposed to know the wind would be this strong today? The quality of this glass is terrible. As usual, she shifted the blame onto me, angrily saying, "It's all Mandy's fault, who told her to buy windows that can't withstand the wind." The sudden cold wind made the three people inside shiver. The clothes hanging on the balcony were instantly swept away by the strong wind and lifted into the sky. Several thuds in a row, and the flower pots fell one by one downstairs. My brother cursed and sneezed violently, his nose turning red. "Now that the glass is broken, it's well ventilated, isn't it?" My dad also shouted with full vigor. "Stop making a fuss every day, come here right now." A loud roar silenced my mom. She hunched over and moved cautiously toward the living room. Even though the balcony had floor-to-ceiling windows, there was still a door separating it from the living room, so the spaces weren't fully open to each other. If my mom could just get to the door in time and close it, the family would still be safe. But right at that moment, the wind suddenly intensified. A powerful gust of wind lifted her clean off her feet. Her face was a mask of terror as her body was nearly lifted off the ground. The violently swirling typhoon winds tore through her hair, whipping it and the rain against her face. My mother frantically grabbed the balcony door frame, just as I had in my past life. "Help! Somebody help!" As if I were her last lifeline, she screamed at my dad and brother. "I can't hold on to the door frame anymore. Come quick and pull me up." But my dad and brother just watched with wary eyes, refusing to take a single step toward the balcony for fear of being dragged down with her. After exchanging a glance, they simply ran into the kitchen and locked the door from the inside. My mother's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. She glanced outside at the raging storm, shuddered in fear, and immediately shouted, "Damn it, you two, father and son, I take care of you every day, feed you, clothe you, and this is how you treat me." Seeing that my father and brother still didn't react, her voice trembled as she pleaded, "Please, at the very least, call the police for me." 3 o'clock in the morning, my mom's screams woke up the neighbors. Someone in the community group chat immediately snapped a photo of my mom and started spamming it. "OMG, look, someone on the 18th floor got swept up by the typhoon. Holy crap, this is insane. Call the police quickly." "I've already called the police. It's because the typhoon is so strong. Didn't you see the cars on the road being blown away? The police probably won't be able to get here anytime soon. Oh my, I wonder how long this auntie can hold on." And in the surveillance footage separated by the kitchen door, my mother couldn't hear my father and brother talking and could only weep helplessly. She cursed me vehemently. "That damned Mandy, who knows where the hell she's gone? She's completely useless. Of all times to disappear, she picks now. If it weren't for coming to see her, why would I be so unlucky? Felix, call Mandy right now." My brother and dad didn't hear my mom, perhaps feeling the room was dangerous. They actually went out into the hallway, leaving my mom alone at home. Knock, knock, knock. My dad knocked on the door next to mine. The knocking was fast and urgent. "Is anyone there? Hurry up and save someone." I mocked inwardly. They were afraid of the typhoon themselves and didn't dare to save my mother, but they wanted to drag others down with them. My brother looked through the peephole, his bloodshot, bulging eyes suddenly loomed large in the peephole, startling me into snapping the cover shut. Clamping a hand over my mouth and holding my breath, my brother let out a curious "huh." "Someone's definitely in there. The light's on, but they won't answer the door. Could it be a woman living alone?" My brother gave a couple of low, lewd chuckles. His sleazy gaze swept over the door as if he could already picture some helpless beauty trembling on the other side. "Hey, beautiful, open up." He pulled out his lock-picking tools and was about to smash them against the door. The police were taking too long to arrive, and no lock was too sturdy for him to pick. At that thought, I turned the knob from the inside and opened the door. "Mandy." My brother saw me, paused for a moment, then said with disdain, "Ugh, it's you." My dad peered in from outside and happened to see the several crates of vegetables I had stockpiled on the floor, his face flushing with anger. "Mandy, have you been hiding here, feasting and indulging, you ungrateful daughter? It would have been better to raise a dog." From the room across the hall, my mother's distant shout echoed. My brother wiped the water off his face and forcefully pulled me into our home. "Come on, let's hurry and save our mom. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have come to Shanghai. It's all your fault." I remained non-committal, locked the door, and followed them to my house. On the balcony, my mom was still clinging tightly to the doorframe. Her pajamas were soaked through by the rain, clinging to her body, and her fingers had turned white from the effort. When she saw me, hope lit up in her eyes. "Sweetheart, come help your mother up. When it really counts, your father and brother are useless. Give me a hand." In my past life, I said the same thing. How did my mom treat me? I glanced at my watch and smiled at her. "Mom, don't worry, I'm coming to save you." My mom was so touched she kept sniffling. Another fierce gust of wind swept through. Countless pieces of household debris were swept into the sky, tossed about for what felt like an eternity, before plummeting to the ground with terrifying force, the impact sending shivers down one's spine. My mother was nearly blown off her feet, staggering precariously. "Quick, come over here, now." My brother shoved me in the back, sending me stumbling forward. At that very moment, a bolt of lightning flashed, accompanied by a sharp crack. The chandelier emitted a faint electrical hum, flickered feebly a few times, and finally went dark. In the darkness, the lights from the residential buildings all vanished in an instant, leaving behind pitch-black windows like pairs of silent eyes. The torrential rain continued to pour down with a deafening roar. Everything was just as it had been in the previous life. The power was out. I let out a silent laugh and turned to look at my brother and my dad. "But, are you both absolutely sure you want to save Mom?" Under their bewildered gazes, I quietly stated a fact. "Don't forget, I bought you all insurance. If Mom dies and we split the 10 million evenly, we'd each get over 3 million. Dad, don't you love sending gifts to those live streaming girls?" "Little brother, haven't you been worried about an apartment for your wedding? Didn't your last girlfriend leave you because you didn't have one?" The moment the words left their mouth, a glint of calculation flashed in my father's and brother's eyes. A heavy silence fell over the room. A fierce wind whipped the curtains, casting monstrous, shifting shadows on the floor. My mother looked at me in horror. "Good daughter, you wouldn't do that, would you?" "I'm your mother," I sighed. "Of course, Mom, don't worry, I'm coming to save you." Saying this, I took a step forward. Suddenly, a powerful force struck. My brother yanked me back forcefully. "Don't go. 11, my mom is about to lose it. Why are you stopping your sister?" My brother's expression was inscrutable, as if he were sizing up a stranger. "Mom, don't blame me for being harsh. If you die, I get 10 million, my mother Wailed like a madwoman, "Son, open your eyes and look at me. I'm your mother. After all these years of raising you, if nothing else, I've put in the hard work." But my brother said coldly, "Who told you to open the window? You brought this upon yourself. No one else to blame." My dad snuffed out his cigarette. As if finally making a decision, he started kicking at my mom's hand, gripping the doorframe. Just like my mom did to me in my previous life, my mother's fingers clenched in pain as she let out a continuous, agonized scream. "Husband, husband, how could you do this to me?" Seeing that no one was paying her any attention, she shouted again, "Don't forget, there are so many neighbors outside. Even if you kill me, there are that many witnesses. You'll never get the money." The curtain suddenly fluttered. My dad gasped. As if finally regaining a bit of consciousness, I shook my head at this moment. The neighborhood is out of power, and with the curtains blocking the view, who could see anything in this pitch darkness? My mom has finally given up. Torrential rain poured down. My mom, drenched, yelled at me, "Mandy, I'm your mother. Do you have to oppose me like this?" I looked apologetic. "Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Mom, I wanted to help you, but Dad and my brother stopped me. They were dead set on getting the insurance money. What was I supposed to do?" Mom. Rain drifted into the living room. Following my father's lead, my brother started kicking our mother. My mother let out agonized cries of pain every now and then. I watched this absurd farce unfold from a distance. "Mom, take a good look. This is your precious husband, your precious son, and this is why you killed me in our past life." Just as they were beating my mother, suddenly, in the midst of the storm, the entire building shook violently. I almost lost my balance too. The slab building is not soundproof. The residents upstairs and downstairs were screaming in panic, in complete chaos. "Fuck, is it an earthquake? Why is the building shaking? No, it's the typhoon. Oh no, the building isn't going to collapse, is it?" 12. The entire building is leaning. The building swayed rhythmically back and forth with the fierce wind. Just as my dad and brother were paralyzed with fear by the swaying building, my mom turned the tide. With one hand, she grabbed my dad's calf and yanked hard. My father only had time to let out a terrified cry before he was swept 3 meters into the air by the typhoon, like a kite with its string cut. My brother was so scared he nearly wet himself. He tried to move towards me, but my mother yanked him back, so my brother grabbed my mother's hair and pulled hard. "You crazy woman, let go." I said let go. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes from the pain, yet she clenched her teeth and refused to let go of his arm. The building gave another sudden lurch. My mother and brother, locked in their struggle, were both flung from the balcony. My brother's face was contorted with absolute terror. In less than half a second, my younger brother was swept up, joining my dad, who was already in midair. Their limbs collided hard, making it look painful just to watch. Instead of falling due to gravity, they kept rising and spinning with the typhoon. My mom had no time to worry about my dad and brother. Clinging to the steel frame of the air conditioner's outdoor unit, she gasped for breath, as if given a second chance at life. "Daughter, help me, please." Soaked to the bone and shivering from the cold, she screamed at me from a distance. I hid in the kitchen, locked the door, and just stared at her, motionless. She called out again and again, to no avail. "My dear daughter, it's me, your mother. From now on, we can live a good life together with the compensation money. Come here, please." Seeing that I didn't move, the sparkle in her eyes finally faded away bit by bit. At this moment, the palm of my mother's hand was already rubbed raw with blood. Despite her fingers constantly tightening, the friction was greatly reduced due to sweating, causing her to slide down a notch, like a swaying blade of grass. Time passed, though it was impossible to tell how much. The wind began to die down. Woo, woo. The main gate of the residential complex slowly creaked open. A siren wailed from downstairs, its drawn-out cry like a sob. Blue and red lights flashed. It was the fire truck, arriving belatedly. I stepped out of the kitchen, in my mother's expectant gaze. I reached out and wiped away the tears from her eyes. After such a shock, my mother, seeing me approach, opened her mouth and emitted unintelligible wails in her excitement. "Mom, I'll pull you up right now," I shouted, but my actions were completely the opposite. I pried open my mother's tightly clenched fingers one by one, just like how my mother treated me in my previous life. My mother's face was filled with terror. She kept shaking her head, her voice trembling. "Good daughter, save your mother, save her. Mom promises to be good to you and will love you dearly." I let out a soft, almost inaudible sigh. "But Mom, I will love myself." A loud splash. Everything seemed like a slow-motion replay. I cried and shouted at the falling figure, as if afraid no one would hear. "Mom, why did you let go?" My mother had just enough time to exchange one last, desperate look with me before she fell. The night was pitch black. A clamor of frantic shouts erupted from downstairs. "Catch her! Catch her!" The firefighters raised the orange inflatable cushion high, skillfully directing and Shouting, bang, everything happened so quickly my mother fell from the height of the 18th floor onto the inflatable cushion held high by the firefighters, bouncing up and then slamming back down. The plump orange inflatable pad suddenly deflated after taking a hit, quickly filling with puddles of mud in the torrential rain. Firefighters, wearing helmets, moved methodically around my mother, carrying her to the ambulance. My mother herself lay unconscious, her eyes tightly shut and limbs twisted. 13 Afterward, the firefighters recovered the bodies of my father and my younger brother. They had been swept away by the typhoon, carried hundreds of meters, and died on the spot. Their condition was utterly horrific. My mother, meanwhile, was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. I clutched the doctor's hand and, in front of everyone, wept until I was nearly unconscious. "Doctor, please, I'm begging you. Save my mother, my father, and my brother both died in this typhoon. She's the only family I have left in this world. Please, you have to do everything you can. I'm on my knees begging you." The doctors and nurses quickly rushed to stop me. The other patients nearby, seeing me in such a pitiful state, eyes blurred with tears and utterly disheveled, were visibly moved. But when I got home that day, I had hot pot. I ate until I was sweating profusely and even let out a burp. Finally, everything was over. A week later, the typhoon has passed, the rain has cleared, and the autumn sun shines over the land. The city, having endured hardships, has regained its former prosperity and orderly state. With people resuming production, the streets are once again filled with noisy vehicles and pedestrians, and the morning rush hour subway remains unbearably crowded. Just like countless other office workers, I headed back to the office to resume work. In the office, my colleagues were animatedly discussing the typhoon that had long since passed. I gave a faint smile and said nothing. Over the weekend, the sun was blazing. The hospital called to tell me my mother had woken up. I brought a whole crate of hairy crabs to visit her. In the hospital bed, she was wrapped from head to toe in bandages and couldn't move a muscle. Overnight, she aged 10 years. While giving my mother an injection, a few nurses said with pity, "I heard this patient was swept up to the 18th floor during the typhoon and fell. Her husband and son died on the spot. How tragic." I interrupted them and let out a sigh. But you know what? All our doors and windows were securely locked. It was my mom who insisted on opening a window in the middle of a typhoon. Even when we told her not to, she went ahead and did it in secret. That's what caused the whole tragedy. The nurses' expressions changed instantly. They gave my mom a strange look, whispered among themselves as they walked away, leaving behind a muttered, "Serves her right." My mom was whimpering at me. She couldn't speak. Her vocal cords were damaged in the fall. "What's wrong, Mom?" I asked with a smile. My mother gestured for me to come over. Tears of regret welled up in her eyes, and her dry palm slowly stroked mine, over and over again, like a loving mother. But the next second, she pulled out a fruit knife from under the bedding and stabbed at my palm. Clang! I knocked the fruit knife away and mocked her. "Mom, why do you want to kill me? It was Dad and your brother who wronged you." "Oh, I almost forgot. They're dead. You can't even hate them anymore." My mother was so angry she pounded the hospital bed, making the 4-line in her hand sway. I pretended not to notice, unwrapped the hairy crab, and began eating it slowly. "Mom, I had a dream. In the dream, you opened the window in the middle of the night, but I was the one swept out by the typhoon. For your brother's sake, you pushed me down with your own hands. I died on the spot. And you turned around to cook a pot of hairy crab for your brother, then took over my savings and my house." Hearing my words, the anger on my mother's face gradually subsided. A flicker passed through her eyes, her expression grew evasive, as if she couldn't quite bring herself to look at me. As if I hadn't noticed her reaction at all, I sucked on the crab leg with relish and said, "Mom, you know what? You could have had a happy life. The reason I didn't lend money to my brother for his down payment is that I want to settle down in a big city, buy a bigger house, and bring you and Dad here to live with me. I feel like you've both worked hard your whole lives. I want to bring you to Shanghai and give you a good life." Upon hearing my words, a look of wistful longing crossed my mother's face, but I callously cut her off. "It's a shame, but you gave all of this up yourself." I clapped my hands together and cleared away the finished hairy crab shells. "Goodbye, Mom." After a long time, as the setting sun cast its glow, I saw my mother covering her aged face under the blanket. Her shoulders shook uncontrollably, her whole body trembling as she wept, unable to control herself. Later, my mother's treatment failed, and she died on the operating table a week later. Although the insurance was originally purchased with my brother as the beneficiary, since he passed away, the beneficiary reverted to me based on our familial relationship. Plus, I had previously taken out home insurance. Suddenly, I had 35 million more in my hands. You could say I struck it rich overnight. Some gossipy relatives, green with envy over my money, started spreading rumors that I had planned the whole thing. I went to find him and poured my heart out in tears, right to his face. I have a wonderful relationship with my family, even though my parents and my brother are gone, and I receive $30 million in insurance money. You have no idea how heartbroken I am. Why must you spread rumors and bring up my painful past again? The other relatives glared at him, scolded him, and comforted me. The gossipy relative fled in panic. I persisted relentlessly, riding my electric scooter, crying all the way as I chased his car to his workplace. From then on, no one dared to gossip about me. I lived a life of financial freedom. Story 2. In my past life, I was too kind for my own good. I saved the nanny's daughter from human traffickers, only to end up being kidnapped myself. 20 years later, after immense struggle, I finally made my way back home, but I discovered my parents had adopted the nanny's daughter, who was now living the life that should have been mine. Showered with all the love and pampering, my twin brother stood by her side like a devoted knight, each of them linking an arm with Grace's. Grace is the only one we call sister. Where did you crawl out from, you country bumpkin? My arranged childhood marriage was transferred to Grace, making him her fiancé instead. My fiancé looked at me with utter disdain and said, "Take a look at yourself. How could you ever compare to Grace?" In the end, I was bullied to death by everyone and thrown into the sea. Heaven has eyes. I can't believe I went back in time to the very second before I saved Grace this time. When Grace looked at me with a terrified face begging for help, I calmly turned around and walked away. In this life, it's your turn to be trafficked and live through my nightmare. See you in 20 years. Help, Laura, save me. In a van not far away, a little girl was clutching the door, crying her heart out. I will never forget this familiar scene for the rest of my life. Isn't this the very day I saved Grace, only for her to betray me? From that moment on, I will never forget this instant. Not for a single day, minute, or second. The little girl's strength could only go so far, and soon she was dragged inside by the older woman. Help, Laura, save me. In my past life, hearing that cry on my way home from school, I immediately dropped my backpack and rushed over, pulling Grace out of the vehicle. I grabbed her hand and we ran into the alley, with the traffickers hot on our heels. Just as we were about to make our escape, the old woman was closing in on us. Grace, panicking behind me, grabbed me and shoved me backward. "Sis, I'll go get help right away." But that help never came. An old woman captured me, trafficked me into the deep mountains, and used me as a breeding machine. I bore 8 children and slaved away for half my life, yet Grace managed to escape, claimed to be my savior, and was adopted by my guilt-ridden parents. She lived happily as their foster daughter for the rest of her life. When I didn't respond, Grace immediately changed her story. "Go after her. She's from a wealthy family. She's worth more. Don't take me." No. Every pair of eyes in the vehicle locked onto me. Without a moment's hesitation, I spun around and bolted. "Now it's your turn to live the life I had in my previous incarnation. See you in 20 years. Grace is the daughter of Marianne, the nanny." After learning her daughter had been trafficked, Marianne was consumed by grief, weeping uncontrollably day after day. But what could be done? Like my past self in a previous life, nothing could change the situation. Endless mountains and deep forests stretched as far as the eye could see, with no signal in sight, each peak towering higher than the last. Grace should have arrived there by now. I suppose Marianne was crying her heart out. She only had this one daughter, just like how I'm the only child to my parents. When my parents lost me, they were just as heartbroken as Marianne at first, but later, they ended up adopting Grace because of her attentive care and what she called her life-saving favor. My parents poured all the affection they had for me, their only daughter, into Grace. My princess bedroom became hers, my elite school became hers, and even my violin and piano became hers. It broke my heart. Grace took my parents, my brother, and even my fiancé. By the time I got home, it was already a done deal. Neither father nor mother cared for me, despite being born into wealth and privilege. I ended up living like a beggar. Eventually, Grace confessed to me that she pushed me on purpose. She didn't leave until she saw me being taken away, and she never even called the police. I tried explaining to my parents, my fiancé, and even my own brother, but all I got in return were their looks of disappointment and contempt. That time in the countryside really corrupted you. Grace has been nothing but kind to you since she returned, and yet you still try to frame her. It's a good thing it was you who got taken. You must be so wicked that even heaven can't stand the sight of you. You deserve every bit of what you're going through. Grace, you're quite the master at winning people over. I wonder if those tricks would work out in the... I would occasionally approach the grieving Marianne to offer her some comfort and guidance. After some time, Marianne had mostly processed her emotions, but she still carried a deep sadness. She looked at me with gratitude. "Miss, you're so kind. I truly appreciate all the care you've given me during this time." I smiled. "There's no need to call me Miss anymore. From now on, just call me Laura. You can think of me as another goddaughter of yours." Marianne waved her hands anxiously. "Oh, I couldn't possibly do that, miss. Someone of your status deserves much more respect. I lowered my head in dismay. Back then, even though I did everything I could to save Grace, she was still taken away. I feel so guilty about it. Upon hearing this, Marianne hugged me with a pained heart. Miss, please don't blame yourself. Perhaps this is fate. I'm already eternally grateful that you saved Grace once. I curled my lips into a smile where Marianne couldn't see. Marianne, why don't you adopt another girl instead? This time, Marianne didn't object. I personally took Marianne to the orphanage. Initially, she wanted to adopt a boy to carry on the family line, but I rejected every suggestion. If she's meant to replace Grace, she'd better be an exact replica to make things interesting. I spotted a little girl fighting stray dogs for food, dark and skinny, yet she fought with such ferocity. What really caught my eye was the defiant stubbornness in her eyes, that refusal to admit defeat. She's got that wild streak and a fiery temper. If she goes up against that scheming Grace, that little manipulator's bag of tricks is going to get completely wrecked. She's the one, I said, giving her a little tap on the head. Marianne, you're absolutely going to love her. Marianne couldn't understand why I was so set on choosing this grubby-looking girl, but she always treated whatever I said as gospel. If the young lady says it's good, then it's good. Upon returning home, I found the door carved from a single piece of Paraiba tourmaline, the entire wall lined with walnut bookshelves, and the glass floor beneath my feet inlaid with deep-sea sapphires. This is where I truly belong, not in that impoverished backwater. Spotting my twin brothers seated on the sofa, I gave them a gentle smile. They bounded over like two eager puppies, clinging to my arms. Sis, you're back. I've missed you so much. I patted each of their heads, and they basked in the attention with blissful expressions. I just helped Marianne adopt a daughter. If you ever meet her, don't you dare bully her. The twin brothers exchanged a glance and replied in unison, got it, sis, like we'd ever dare disobey you. In recent years, I've stopped micromanaging them like I used to. No more lecturing about right and wrong, dos and don'ts. Like Grace in my past life, I always gently accept them no matter what they do. Don't want to study? Fine. Want to play games? Go ahead. Made a mess? I'll handle it. They can make all the trouble they want, carefree and without studying. Just having fun is all they need. Gradually, they became more and more dependent on me and listened to my words increasingly. They will become the blades in my hands, cutting down every obstacle in my path. In my previous life, I thought my brothers despised me because I'd been away from home too long, or because I'd done something wrong. I thought it was all my fault, until one day I accidentally walked into their room and found the walls plastered with surreptitious photos of Grace, every private angle imaginable. I threw up on the spot. They're actually in that kind of relationship. No wonder every time that little manipulator starts crying, my two brothers are always the first to rush in and play the white knights. Having a woman like her as my sister is just shameful. Everything in this house belongs to Grace. Get back to your countryside hovel and don't you dare compete with her. I wonder if in this lifetime, my brother's sword will be pointed at the woman they loved most in their past life. After turning both my younger brothers into good-for-nothings, I became our parents' favorite child. After being reborn, I'm practically unstoppable. When my younger brothers threw tantrums about avoiding business and finance courses, I stepped up to master them. I also embraced the equestrian and fencing lessons they shunned, quickly surpassing their skill level. My rapid progress soon outpaced my instructors, leading to a succession of increasingly elite mentors. These masters consistently praised my exceptional aptitude. Academically, I consistently ranked first in the entire school, never once slipping to second place. Praise came flooding in from all directions, and my parents were swept up in the adulation. Beyond regular coursework, I also attended various training programs during my free time: fencing, equestrian, piano, ballet. I never missed a single course required for an heir's education. Gradually, my parents shifted all their focus to nurturing me, and trusting my younger brother entirely to my guidance. I accepted with a smile. Once in my hands, did he really think he could escape? Oh, and about my fiancé, unlike Grace, who went all out to please her golden bachelor, I deliberately kept my distance. I would greet everyone at school with a gentle, warm smile, yet I never once cracked a smile for my fiancé, but he totally ate it up. The colder I was, the more desperately he fell for me, even more intensely than he ever had with Grace. People are just like that. We always want what we can't have. In my past life, I was the one chasing after him, and he couldn't stand me. To secure Grace's position as the adopted daughter, they went all out manipulating and brainwashing me. They pressured me to give up everything at home for Grace, saying I wasn't worthy and calling me a country bumpkin, someone like me trying to pursue him. It disgusted him, but in my past life, I didn't understand. I was the one engaged to him all along. Was I wrong for pursuing my fiancé just because my affection disgusted him, just because Grace was upset? Did that give him the right to have me gang raped that day? I was watching TV in the living room when a news report came on about rescuing trafficked women and children. I squinted at the address shown at the bottom of the screen. It was in the area around Dewan Village, Tongluo Town. With Grace's cleverness, she might actually seize the chance to slip away, so I turned to my mother and said, "Mom, I want to pursue further studies at Harvard Business School. Let's move to the US together." My parents were hesitant at first. Their businesses are all in China, and they were worried about adjusting to life abroad so suddenly. I smiled and said, "I could also help expand our family business in the US while I'm at it." My business acumen had long been recognized by everyone. The moment I said this, my parents' eyes lit up and they immediately agreed. My two younger brothers were the same. Wherever I went, they were sure to follow. A week later, with all the paperwork completed, our entire family moved to the United States to live, worried that I might struggle with the food. Marianne anxiously came along as well. Before leaving, my mother asked if I wanted to sell this old manor. I shook my head with a smile. No need. There are too many memories here. I can't bear to part with it. My parents and younger brother exchanged knowing smiles, thinking I was referring to the cherished memories of growing up together with them, but in truth, what I had in mind were the humiliation, torment, and disdain I endured in my past life. Most importantly, what if Grace runs away and can't find her way home? I've been looking forward to the day she returns all along. It would be even better if Grace could remember everything from her past life. She'll see with her own eyes how her adoptive parents who cherished her, the brother who always obeyed her, and the wealthy husband she worked so hard to land, all end up siding with me. 5 more years. Grace. 5 years later, I earned both my bachelor's and master's degrees from Harvard, while also expanding my business in the US tenfold. After the full handover was complete, I returned to my home country with my parents. I found myself back at the familiar manor. On the drive home, a disheveled woman suddenly darted out from the roadside, startling the driver into slamming on the brakes. My twin brothers Ethan and Evan immediately shielded me, asking in unison, "Are you okay, sis?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. Go check outside quickly. I think we might have hit someone." Only after confirming I was truly unharmed did Ethan and Evan step out of the car, their faces dark with concern. The moment the deranged woman laid eyes on my two brothers, her face lit up with sheer delight. "Ethan, Evan, it's me, Grace, your sister." Ethan and Evan exchanged a glance, identical looks of disgust and confusion on their faces. "Where did this lunatic come from?" "Get lost," Grace said with an ingratiating smile. "Oh, right, you probably don't remember me. No worries, I'll help jog your memory." Ethan and Evan exchanged exasperated looks. They seemed to have encountered someone completely unhinged. "Security, get this person out of here." The security guards stepped forward, each taking one of Grace's arms. "Get your filthy hands off me, don't touch me." "Ethan and Evan, I really am your sister, believe me." Without even looking back, Ethan and Evan climbed into the car with disgusted expressions, then snuggled against my shoulder acting all coquettish. "Sis, good thing you didn't get out of the car earlier. That woman outside is a complete lunatic. She actually deludes herself into thinking she's our sister. Just look at her, what an ugly mess. How could she ever compare to you, sis? You've always been number one since we were little." Ethan and Evan gazed at me with puppy-dog eyes, sparkling with anticipation. I smiled and said, "Don't put others down, everyone has their own strengths." Evan looked at me disapprovingly and said, "Sis, you're just too kind-hearted." The car started up again and drove into the estate. As Grace's tantrum faded into the distance behind me, the smile on my lips grew wider. "After 20 years, we've finally met again." It seems Grace has regained her memories from a past life. In that case, I won't hold back any longer. This just makes things more interesting, doesn't it? After I got back, I made some inquiries and found out that Grace had been staking out the estate entrance for 5 years. Every single day, she'd stand there muttering to herself and peering inside, never missing a day. People thought she'd lost her mind trying to marry into money. The next day, after keeping vigil outside the estate for a full day and night, Grace finally managed to get a message passed inside. I'd just finished breakfast when I overheard the butler telling Marianne that the woman outside was claiming to be her long-lost daughter. With a sharp crack, the plate in Marianne's hands shattered into pieces. "My daughter is back." A stern-faced woman stood behind me, keeping watch over me with unwavering diligence. At these words, she slowly lifted her eyelids. "She's the girl I had Marianne adopt from the orphanage all those years ago, and now she's become my personal bodyguard. Over the years, I've carefully nurtured their relationship, and now she and Marianne are incredibly close." The smile on my lips grew wider. After a full 20 years, Grace and I have finally met. Grace made a special effort today, wearing a little white dress and washing her hair. She looked somewhat presentable compared to yesterday's disheveled appearance, but she didn't realize that the white dress only made her complexion appear darker, as if she just Emerged from a coal mine, her hair was yellowish and brittle, clearly showing signs of malnutrition. She looked exactly like a middle-aged woman trying to sneak into her daughter's clothes. Marianne held her close, running her hands over her arms and shoulders. Is it really you, my girl? I've searched for you all these years. It's been so hard. Grace shifted uncomfortably, as if she didn't care for Marianne's touch. I didn't miss the flicker of disdain in her eyes. How could she look down on her own mother for being a housekeeper? Though held in Marianne's embrace, her eyes were fixed on my parents with overwhelming emotion. Her eyes were red-rimmed as large tears streamed down her face. After 20 long years, I've finally come home. Dad, Mom, little brother, I've missed you all so much. Marianne thought she must have misheard. Since when do we have a brother? I stood at a distance, watching Grace with cold detachment. Grace's skin hung loose and sallow, as if the life had been drained from her. When I escaped from the mountains in my past life, I left all 8 Yowzes behind in the wilderness. I wonder if Grace also ended up having 8 children in this lifetime. She must have, otherwise, she wouldn't look the way she does now, a woman who should be in her early 20s but appears worn beyond her years, like she's in her 40s. As soon as she caught sight of me, Grace's eyes turned venomous, and her face darkened. Her expression was thick with bitter envy and seething malice, as if I had stolen everything that should have been hers. I let out a sudden laugh. Is this what you call being wronged? I remembered the day I found my way back home in my previous life. Not a single person in the family welcomed me, as if I were a complete stranger. My twin brothers, Ethan and Evan, stood on either side of Grace like knights guarding a princess, each holding one of her arms. Mom, Dad, did you get the DNA test results? Is this old woman really our sister? I didn't even get a bite to eat before being dragged to the hospital for tests. After getting the test results, their attitude turned even nastier, their eyes filled with disgust. Having a sister like this is so embarrassing. Taking her out in public would be so humiliating. How could she ever compare to Grace? Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if there was a mix-up at the hospital. Maybe Grace is actually your real daughter. They looked me up and down with condescending stares, their eyes making me feel like a piece of trash. Grace, wearing a delicate white dress, warmly came up and linked her arm with mine. Sister, welcome to our home. Out of everyone's sight, she dug her nails hard into my arm. The sudden pain made me shove her away instinctively. The little faker immediately welled up with tears and pretended to stumble. It's okay, she whimpered. Maybe big sister is just nervous after arriving home and isn't used to things yet. Seeing their precious little faker take a fall, my twin brothers each grabbed one of my arms and threw me out of the estate. It was winter. I remember being exposed to the cold for 3 full days and nights, and I was only carried inside after losing consciousness. My parents watched with calm expressions, making no move to intervene. As I was being carried in, the family was happily gathered around the dining table enjoying a meal together. After finally making it home, I felt like I was in hell. In her past life, Grace was always dressed in haute couture, with fair and delicate skin, and a stunning figure, but now, worn out from overwork, she's become bloated and looks as if she's endured a lifetime of hardship, with no trace left of the refined young lady she once was. Soon, she spotted Ethan and Evan standing beside me, her eyes lighting up as she planned to use the same tactics from her past life to win over my brothers. Grace, in her carefully chosen little white dress, bounced over to them, pretending to be a sweet and innocent white lotus, her voice dripping with exaggerated sweetness. Hey, Ethan and Evan, since we'll be living together from now on, just think of me as your big sister. Looking forward to getting to know you both. With a playful wink, Grace leaned forward slightly, revealing a glimpse of. She seemed to have forgotten her current appearance, her bulky figure, oily and rough skin, and calloused hands. Can you imagine a woman in her 40s putting on an exaggerated, cutesy act and trying to act all coy with you? Ethan and Evan both wore identical looks of disgust on their faces, immediately stumbling 3 steps back in horror. Ethan even threw up on the spot. Seriously, lady, who the hell are you? Grace's face instantly fell apart. Darling, I'm your sister. Grace was now significantly shorter than in her previous life, and combined with her swollen, dark appearance, she looked like a ball from a distance. Even Marianne looked more like a daughter than she did. I looked at Grace with admiration. She was doing much better than I had in my past life. Back then, I was starving in skin and bones, but at least she had managed to put on some weight. Ethan looked absolutely livid. Get lost, lady, who said I'm your brother? I have my own sister. Thank you very much. Are you out of your mind, trying to latch onto anyone you meet? Evan's expression was cold and disgusted. Know your place, you're just the housekeeper's daughter, and for the record, you don't live with us. You stay in the servants' quarters next door. Our family treats our staff well. Even the housekeeper lives in a villa, just a slightly smaller one. That's all. With that, Ethan and Evan huddled close to me on either side, like little puppies. Laura is the only sister we have. Grace's face froze, and the look she gave me grew even more venomous. She muttered under her breath, "They're my brothers. They should be head over heels for me, right? They just don't know me well enough yet. They've been blinded by that bitch. But I'll slowly correct Ethan and Evan in the future." With my sharp hearing, I caught every word and nearly couldn't hold back a snort of laughter when Grace saw me laughing at her. A venomous look crossed her face. For some reason, she took a step closer to me. Just like in our past life, Grace tried the same old trick. I played along and gave her a shove. This time, Grace wasn't faking it. She hit the ground hard, and I even heard the sickening crack of a bone. Last time she took a dive. But this time I made sure she went down for real. Grace's face contorted for a moment before quickly reverting to a pitiful expression. "Sis, I just wanted to say hello. Why did you have to push me?" Unfortunately, no one was paying attention to her act. Mom, Dad, Ethan, Evan, even Marianne, they all crowded around me. "Laura, are you hurt? Are you okay? That disgusting beggar actually touched you. Sis, I'll wipe it off for you with a handkerchief later. Miss, are you all right?" Grace sat frozen on the cold floor, her face a mask of disbelief. "She's the one who got hurt. The least you could do is check on her. What's wrong with you people?" Ethan and Evan approached Grace with grim expressions. The flash of surprise on Grace's face vanished instantly, replaced by her rehearsed portrayal of a pitiful victim. "Thanks, I'm fine. It's just..." But before she could finish speaking, she was cut off. Ethan spat the gum he'd been chewing right onto her face with a wet smack. "You damn schemer. How dare you mess with my sister? I'll make you pay." With that, Ethan delivered a brutal kick to her stomach, sending her crashing against the door. Evan adjusted his glasses and said, "Since you love playing the victim so much, why don't you take it all the way?" Ethan and Evan stepped forward, seized Grace by the arms, and dragged her all the way outside the estate gates. "No, you have to believe me. She's the one who pushed me. I swear, I'm not lying." Even her own mother Marianne glared at her viciously. "How dare you slander the young lady? She's been nothing but kind. She even prepared a bedroom specially for your return, and now you have the audacity to spread lies about her in public." My parents shook their heads at her in disappointment. "We were going to look after her out of respect for you, Marianne, but it seems she doesn't know what's good for her." I gave Grace a gentle smile as she was being dragged on the ground, mouthing the words silently. "I pushed you on purpose." Grace's eyes widened abruptly. "Look, everyone, Laura just admitted she pushed me." Ethan stuck a piece of bubblegum right on her mouth. "Lying again. How disgusting." Grace was thrown out directly, her little white dress stained with grime from the ground. Her hands gripped the railing, her eyes burning with venom as she stared at me. "I get it now. You've been reborn too, haven't you? No wonder you didn't save me back then, after a night of torrential rain." A drenched Grace was finally returned to the manor the next day. I watched leisurely from the second floor as she stumbled in like a wet dog. "This is nothing, compared to being thrown out for 3 days and nights in the dead of winter. What she's going through is a walk in the park. The only thing is, Evan mistook her for a gold digger. We already kicked her out, yet she still crawls back in like a stray dog. Can't she see she's not welcome here? She's just after our family's wealth. If Marianne hadn't taken care of us for decades, our parents would have disowned a daughter like her long ago." I gave a faint smile and gently advised them, "She's just been through hardships living in the mountains. Please try to be more understanding with her." Ethan and Evan exchanged glances. Their sister was too kind-hearted. They would take care of this nuisance that was bothering her. On the sofa, Marianne took Grace's hand and sat down with her. "I told Grace she shouldn't have spoken to me like that the other day. As the eldest daughter of this household, she ought to respect me, look after me, yield to me in everything, and always put me first." Grace probably realized she's no match for me yet, having just arrived, so she put on an act of obedience and nodded in agreement, though I could see the suppressed frustration twisting her expression. "TCH, her acting isn't as good as it was in her past life." Then Grace started playing the victim again, going on about how miserable her life had been all these years, and how the family that trafficked her had enslaved and abused her. She never got to go to school when she reached the right age, never learned to read or write, and was forced to work around the clock at home every single day. This gradually swayed Marianne's sympathy to her side. Grace completely avoided mentioning that she had given birth to a child. A smile played ever more brightly on my lips. I never dared bring it up in my past life either. And then, on the very day I brought my boyfriend home, Grace suddenly showed up with my children in tow, looking at me with accusatory eyes while spouting moral platitudes. "Laura, how Could you abandon your own children in the mountains? They're so young. It's heartbreaking. They're just children. What could they possibly have done wrong? Look, I brought them all back. You must have missed them terribly, haven't you? The 8 boys lunged at me like a pack of starved wolves spotting fresh prey, covering my body with bruises from their pinching. Mom, we've missed you so much. My boyfriend shoved me away abruptly, staring at me with utter disgust. Laura, you're disgusting. Marianne wiped her tears and suddenly remembered something. Turning to Grace, she said, "By the way, you have an older sister you've never met, right?" Grace, who had been crying bitterly, froze. "What older sister? I don't have one. Even if her mother had another child after she left, wouldn't that make the child her younger sister?" Marianne explained. "Your sister is such a lovely person, you'll adore her. After you left, I missed you terribly." It was then that the young mistress suggested I adopt a child from the orphanage, so I wouldn't be left with no one to care for me in my old age. Who would have thought Clove would treat me with such devotion? She truly cherishes me as her own mother. I definitely made the right choice in raising this daughter. As I came downstairs with Clove, Marianne instinctively began fussing over her. She asked whether Clove had slept well, how she was finding the meals, and if the food suited her taste. Grace was completely forgotten without anyone noticing. Grace sat on the couch in stunned silence. Finally, Clove approached and greeted her. "Hello, you must be my sister." Grace brushed Clove's hand away, her face a mask of disbelief. This was her own birth mother. "Mom, instead of looking for me after I left, you went and adopted someone else's child. What kind of mother are you? Am I even your biological daughter?" Marianne's face was the picture of embarrassment. "Grace, I had no other choice. Please let me explain." Watching Marianne and Grace loudly trading accusations in the living room, I just shrugged and quickly pulled Clove away with me. Let them sort out their family matters between mother and daughter. We shouldn't get involved. Clove completely agreed, worried that Grace's muddled thinking might end up hurting me. Despite being blood-related mother and daughter, they were now shirking responsibilities, bickering, and blaming each other. It was no different from my parents in my previous life. Oh, that's right, we were only able to locate my 8 children deep in the mountains thanks to Marianne's intelligence network. I heard she personally brought those 8 bastards out herself. She was afraid that after I returned, her own daughter Grace's position would be threatened. How ridiculous, my dear Grace. Are you now experiencing what it feels like to have your birth parents taken away from you? Not only your biological parents, but even your twin brother who adored you in your past life now stands unconditionally by my side. Your adoptive parents who showered you with endless wealth now don't even recognize you. To survive in this household, you still have to bend over backward trying to please me, the person you despise most, feeling wronged, furious, think it's unfair. After all that struggle to return, I found nothing in this home belonged to me anymore. This is just the beginning. Grace, enjoy the ride. Just like what happened to me, I was born a wealthy heiress, yet was forced to assume the identity of our housekeeper's daughter. The worst part is everyone went along with it, refusing to acknowledge my true identity. They all looked down on me for growing up in the mountains, thinking I'm not good enough to associate with them and that I'd lower their status. So what if we're related by blood? After that whole fiasco, Grace relentlessly clung to Ethan and Evan, going out of her way to follow them around every single day, even when Ethan and Evan were clearly disgusted by her and wanted nothing to do with her. Grace seemed to relish every moment of it. She was convinced she could straighten them out. If they were into her in their past life, they're bound to fall for her again this time around. Grace was absolutely certain of this. Ethan and Evan complained to me that they wanted to kick Grace out of the manor. That woman is utterly disgusting. It's straight up sexual harassment. She parades around topless in front of us every day, and her skirts don't even cover anything. I patted their heads and turned down the idea, shutting them up with a simple "be kind, you 3 better stay together. Where else would I get my entertainment?" Ethan and Evan always listened to me. Since I said Grace stays, she wasn't going anywhere. Ethan and Evan had to put up with the daily annoyance, their scowls just making my day. In our past life, my 2 younger brothers were practically glued to Grace, refusing to leave her side for even a moment. Grace is my only sister. Even if you've come home now, don't think for a second you can take her place. The fact that I share blood with someone like you makes me sick. It's a good thing you were taken away, otherwise we never would have had Grace as our sister. Tisk tsk, why so much disdain in this lifetime? Grace kept pestering Ethan and Evan, trying to win them over with her gentleness and even attempting to brainwash them. "I see your sister goes to the office every day. Why aren't you 2 going? Be careful, she might take over the company." They gave Grace an exasperated look and said, "Take over? The entire group has always been our sisters." Grace's face instantly turned green. "What? The corporation should belong to you too. How could a woman like her get shares? Even in our past life, when our parents adored her so much, they never gave her a single share. Why does that bitch Laura get them?" Ethan and Evan looked exasperated. "What's wrong with being a woman? Our sister is incredibly talented. Under her leadership, the corporation's profits grow every single day. Besides, as the eldest daughter, the corporation should rightfully be hers alone. Grace stared in disbelief. But your dad's sons, how could you not have any shares? In our past life, the corporation was clearly meant for both of you. Ethan and Evan exchanged a glance, their hearts sinking further. This crazy woman was spouting nonsense again. Past lives, they were convinced she was mentally ill. She kept deluding herself into thinking she was their sister. It was absolutely disgusting. Who do you think you are? Stop spouting this nonsense to us. Do you even know my sister graduated from Harvard Business School? Oh, forget it. You've never even been to school. What would you know? Grace was still reeling from the news that the company was now hers, acting completely delirious and muttering to herself, "No way, this can't be happening. My parents adore me, yet they never handed the corporation over to me. It should have been you two managing it all along. How dare that wretched woman?" Ethan and Evan had long since made their escape. They'd had enough of that woman's incessant pestering lately. Grace has been preoccupied with winning over my twin brothers, so she hasn't been bothering me. I thought she'd lay low for a while, but turns out she was secretly plotting something major. Right in the middle of my birthday celebration, out of nowhere, Grace appeared and snatched the microphone right out of my hand. In front of all the guests, with a face full of excitement, she was determined to expose my true nature. The Laura you all admire is no different from a human trafficker. She's vicious, sinister, selfish, and cunning. The reason I was trafficked back then is all because Laura stood by and did nothing to help. She clearly saw me being taken away, yet she ran off without even looking back. Didn't even call the police for me. Because of that, I suffered torment in the deep mountains for over 20 years. It's all your fault, Laura. Grace's face was full of smug satisfaction. Well, now that halo around your goddess image should finally fade, shouldn't it? The guests below began whispering behind their hands, and the room quickly buzzed with excitement. Without a word of explanation from me, Ethan and Evan didn't believe a single thing Grace said. They stormed onto the stage, dragged her down, and pinned her to the ground. "I've put up with you for far too long, and you dare frame my sister. How dare you?" Marianne stepped forward with a dark expression, her rough hand striking Grace's face with 2 sharp slaps. "All these years, I felt guilty and planned to use my savings to send you abroad for studies and a better life. I never imagined you'd have the audacity to slander the young mistress." My parents shook their heads in disappointment. "My daughter would never do such a thing." "Marianne, your daughter can no longer live here. Send her away." I didn't even need to explain myself. Everyone would take my side. I gave Grace a faint smile, seeing my smile. Grace flew into a rage, hurling a torrent of abuse at me. With every curse she hurled, Clove got slapped across the face, yet Grace kept on shouting, her cheeks already red and swollen. "Oh, please, I had it much worse back in my day. When I told the truth back then, I wasn't just slapped. They stripped me naked and threw me right into the middle of the street. They called me a liar and said I shouldn't even think about tarnishing Grace's good name. I was stripped naked and thrown onto the street as punishment." Grace kept chattering incessantly. "I remember there are surveillance cameras on that street. Go check them, launch an investigation. Everything I'm saying is true." "Ethan, Evan, let me go. I'm actually your real sister. That bitch has been deceiving you all. If she hadn't sold me out, it would be me you all loved right now." Everyone was looking at Grace like she was insane. Ethan and Evan exchanged glances, goosebumps rising on their arms. Was this girl actually delusional? Who would want her as a sister? How embarrassing, and to think she actually believed they liked her. Grace must have been fantasizing about dating them all day long. Disgusting, absolutely revolting. Ethan and Evan couldn't hold back, vomiting in front of everyone once again. Ugh. Ethan stepped forward and delivered another harsh kick, striking Grace's body with force. "You damn woman, stop fantasizing about me. The thought of you thinking about me all the time makes me sick." The security guards were already escorting Grace out of the banquet. "Don't throw me out." Grace looked pleadingly at my parents and said, "Mom, Dad, save me. I'm your real daughter. I'm the one you should love the most. You two senile old fools. You always said I was your favorite daughter. You should have cherished me most. That wretched Laura should have been the one who got trafficked." My parents stepped onto the stage to calm the crowd. "As you all witnessed, that woman is merely our housekeeper's daughter who suffers from delusions. Please pay no mind to her ramblings." The guests exchanged knowing glances, realizing the woman's incoherent babbling about past lives indeed sounded utterly unhinged. All that nonsense about previous lifetimes, just endless drivel. Hearing Grace belittle me like that, Ethan and Evan even brushed off the security guards and personally dragged Grace out themselves. Grace's screams echoed from outside, leaving me to wonder what was being done to her. I took a delicate sip of the red wine, excellent vintage. In this whole spectacle, I didn't even have to open my mouth outside. Even though Grace was beaten to a pulp, she still wouldn't change her story. Ethan, Evan, you have to believe me. It was Laura who set me up back then. Otherwise, I really would have been your sister. Ethan and Evan exchanged a glance, a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes after kicking Grace out. They obtained the surveillance footage she had mentioned the very next day. That's right, I left it there on purpose for them to find, but I waited for days, and neither Ethan nor Evan came to confront me with the surveillance footage, so I pretended to know nothing about it and asked them about the cameras myself. To my surprise, they both insisted with absolute certainty that there never were any cameras, that Grace had made the whole thing up. Once again I'm convinced. Ethan and Evan destroyed the surveillance footage that would have implicated me, all to protect my reputation. Such good boys, so even if they discover who I truly am, they'll definitely side with me, right? I whispered in their ears, but it's coming back to me now. I really did leave Grace to die. The guilt keeps me up every night. If only Grace would just disappear. I said the same thing to my fiancé. Within a month, I heard the news about Grace falling into the sea that night. Ethan and Evan crouched by my bedside with sparkling eyes. Sis, did you hear? That crazy woman fell into the sea today. No one will ever speak ill of you again, sis. You can finally rest easy now. Even my fiancé texted me saying I should stop overthinking, that everything's been taken care of. I smiled without a word, watching the covert footage on my phone. This past month, I had 3 private investigators tailing them, capturing clear evidence of how they harmed Grace. The moment I got hold of that footage, I went straight to the police without a second thought. At the police station, Ethan, Evan, and my fiancé all insisted it was entirely their idea and that I had nothing to do with it, but I made sure to ruin their little plan. I even paid them a personal visit while they were behind bars. Just so you know, I was the one who handed your murder video over to the cops. Ethan and Evan looked up at me in disbelief, their lips trembling. Sis, why? No sooner had they spoken than they slapped themselves twice across the face. Sis, we were wrong. You must have called the police because you were worried we'd go down the wrong path. Sis, this was all our own doing. Please don't feel guilty. I let out a light chuckle. You really have been trained like dogs, haven't you? Let me be honest with you. I did it on purpose, and Grace wasn't wrong either. In your past life, she really was your sister, and you were both head over heels in love with her. Ethan and Evan stared at me in disbelief. How is that even possible? I went to visit my dear fiancé again and recounted the whole incident to him once more. You'll be joining your real fiancé soon. Happy now. A month later, the 3 of them were executed. I heard they went insane in prison, muttering I'm sorry every single day, kept saying they shouldn't have treated me like that in their past life, that it was their fault, they deserved it, and even death was justified. Sounds like they've regained memories from their previous incarnation too. I didn't punish the wrong people, their souls are all the same soul from that past life. By the way, I brought Grace's 8 sons down from the mountains and entrusted them all to Marianne's care. After all, they are her grandchildren. Marianne is going to have a happy golden years. The sunshine is absolutely lovely today. I'm finally free. Story 2. My stepsister tricked me into drinking milk mixed with her blood using a secret technique, stealing my beauty. She replaced me as a top supermodel, while I became fat and ugly, losing my job. My stepmother also placed a cactus that absorbs good fortune in my room, causing me to become more unlucky and face continuous misfortunes. The harder I worked, I lived in a daze and was hit by a car while crossing the street, leading to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the night when my stepsister first handed me a glass of milk. I took the glass of milk mixed with my stepsister's blood, which could steal her appearance, and secretly poured it onto the cactus my stepmother used to draw fortune in this life. No one but me will have a good fate. Sister, I've warmed up some milk for you. You must be tired. Drink it and rest early. A shiver ran down my spine the moment I heard Tara's voice. In my past life, this very glass of milk marked the beginning of my nightmare. My mother passed away from illness when I was very young. Not long after, my father brought home a new woman named Sybil. I also have a daughter named Tara, who is only a few months younger than me. At first, the mother and daughter didn't show much hostility toward me. It wasn't until after graduation that I was scouted by a modeling agency due to my outstanding appearance, and gradually became an internationally renowned supermodel. Tara became envious and actually sought out a secret technique, using her own blood as a medium, mixing it into the glass of milk she brought me every night, slowly stealing my figure and beauty away. She replaced me as an international supermodel, earning millions annually and basking in the spotlight. I, on the other hand, lost my job due to a face full of pus. filled sores and an increasingly obese body. Moreover, my stepmother Sybil placed a cactus in my room that absorbs the luck of the nearest person and uses it for herself. Therefore, no matter how hard I tried afterward, everything always went wrong. I was in a daze when I was accidentally hit by a car while crossing the street, and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment in the ICU. Tara came to visit me and whispered the entire truth in my ear. Lena, I was just jealous of you, jealous that you were born with such great natural advantages, able to gain so much attention and endless wealth without even having to try, but it doesn't matter anymore. My mother and I had the ability to steal your father away, so naturally we also have the ability to steal your beauty, your reputation, your wealth, everything that belongs to you. You probably don't know yet, but next month I'm not only participating in the global supermodel competition, but also getting engaged to your boyfriend Zane. Unfortunately, I wonder if you'll even be alive to see that day. After the car accident, her fragile heart and lungs couldn't withstand such intense stimulation. I tried hard to breathe a few times, but in the end, I couldn't grasp the life slipping away, and could only helplessly listen as the machine emitted a long beep. Tara feigned panic as she rushed out to call for help, and my consciousness slipped into darkness. Sis, seeing my prolonged silence, Tara urged in a hushed voice. I looked up to see beneath her carefully crafted concern, undeniable envy and venomous anticipation. Once noticed, swallowing my rage, I quietly took the cup and set it aside. Thanks, sis, I'll drink it later. I closed the door after watching her leave my room. Without hesitation, I poured that body-snatching milk into the soul-draining cactus pot. Milk mixed with blood must surely feel more familiar to this sinister potted plant than me, who stands idly by at a distance. In this life, I'd like to see just how far this mother and daughter will go in betraying each other, and what kind of ending they'll end up with. It wasn't long before Tara eagerly came in to check. Seeing that my cup was empty, she couldn't help but smile. Her already small eyes, squeezed by fat, became even harder to make out. She volunteered to wash the cups for me. As soon as the kitchen door opened, I could smell the fried odor from afar, which could not be completely removed even with the range hood. Tara is making fried chicken for her late-night snack. Actually, she resembles her mother in appearance. Sybil was the delicate and refined type, so logically speaking, any daughter she bore should never be too ugly. But when they first came to my house, Sybil tried to assert her dominance by secretly and openly creating obstacles for me. Whatever delicious food was bought or cooked at home, it was only given to Tara, wanting to see more of my distressed and restrained expressions. Tara also pretended to be blissfully happy and deliberately gorged herself in front of me. This pudding was specially brought home by Dad after work. Sister, Dad didn't buy you one, but you're not angry, right? I only took one piece of the sweet and sour ribs for dinner, but Tara acted as if she'd suffered a huge injustice. Dad, since I was little, Mom always made the sweet and sour ribs just for me to eat the whole plate. Now that we're in the new house, is Sister going to take that from me too? Dad doesn't like how strong-willed Mom is, always feeling that she undermines his masculinity, and by extension, he doesn't really like me either. They decreed that I could only eat leftovers after the three of them had finished their meals. In ordinary households, there aren't many things for children to compare. It's all about half sustenance, half amusement. Over time, Tara's gluttony grew worse, and she became increasingly overweight. When she reached the age of caring about appearances, she became insanely jealous of my figure. She convinced Dad to let me back at the dinner table, but deliberately had Sybil serve me greasy fried food and sickly sweet desserts. But by then I'd started making money as a model, eating specially prepared low-fat meals. They never got the chance to tamper with my diet. In my past life, when I saw Tara suddenly binging on fried food this late, I assumed she'd cracked under dieting pressure and gently warned her, consistency is key to weight loss. With slower metabolism at night, this much food won't digest properly and harms your health. She smiled mysteriously. Sister, I don't care anymore. Now I think, if it's meant to be, it will be. Even though I'm fat, maybe one day I'll suddenly become thin, don't you think? Now I finally understand. She had already known that she would switch bodies and looks with me. No matter how much she eats, the fat and acne will eventually appear on my body and face little by little. I followed the smell into the kitchen, pretending to be interested. You made fried chicken, let me taste it too. Tara covered the plate in horror. No, sister, you're a model. You need to maintain your figure. I lowered my head miserably. That glass of milk you had tonight really whetted my appetite. But you're right, since I can't eat just anything, don't prepare milk for me anymore. Otherwise I won't be able to control myself. She panicked, her eyes darting around. Milk was probably the best beverage she could find to mask the smell of blood. Just as I turned to leave, Tara, hurriedly called me back. Wait, Wani-chan, let me make you some low-sugar, low-fat snacks to satisfy your cravings. She went through the recipe book and made me a very complicated coconut meringue pudding using the egg beater late at night. She even got scolded by her father, who came after hearing the noise. I finished eating it with satisfaction, thinking that if I could have such a dessert every day after drinking milk, I probably wouldn't crave other fattening snacks anymore, too. She forced a smile through her bitterness and said, "Okay, no problem, I'll make it for you every day." Half a month passed like this. Every day, I would take a cup of specially prepared milk from Tara, and then pour it into the cactus given by Sybil, one that absorbs human fortune. When she wasn't looking, as usual, Tara made me a different low-sugar dessert every night before bed. Though exhausted, she found endless joy in it. After all, in her fantasy, this was nurturing her own future self, to avoid raising her suspicions. I dabbed makeup to create blemishes on my face at home and started wearing masks when coming and going. The cactus was gradually assimilating her appearance. Her once bumpy skin from excessive oil, spice, and sugar intake began smoothing out with a healthy glow. Her formerly stocky figure showed noticeable improvement. She stopped cooking greasy meals at home to avoid tempting me, satisfying her cravings elsewhere instead. The desk cactus grew plumper by the day, its surface glistening with oily sheen. I tiptoed to her bedroom door and overheard Tara and Sybil whispering about their recent progress inside. "Mom, that thing the master gave us actually works. Look, I've lost 20 pounds this week, and my belly's gotten so much smaller." I chuckled quietly outside the door. Hadn't she noticed she wasn't just slimming down, she was flattening out like a deflated cactus? Tara sighed gloomily. "But that bitch Lena's career keeps thriving even though her face is starting to show problems. Is your stupid cactus even working?" Sybil retorted. "Patience. When someone's modeling career is that hot, a few days of bad luck won't make a visible dent. But look, I've been hitting small lottery wins lately. The amounts are tiny, but I've never had this kind of streak before." Tara clicked her tongue enviously before complaining. "Mom, get me one of those Lucky Charms too. My life's been cursed recently." Naturally so. After all, the cactus siphoning Sybil's good fortune was nourished daily by Tara's own blood. Tara's been constantly getting minor injuries lately. She'd either trip while walking normally, get hit by random flying objects, lose her keys, or break her phone. The day Sybil won $200 in the lottery, Tara had sudden food poisoning at work and couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. The memory still fills her with shame. "I haven't shown up at the office for days because of this." "Fine, don't go then." Sybil waved her hand dismissively. "Once you fully inherit Lena's looks, you'll be raking in cash just by snapping a few photos. Who needs a boring job anyway?" Hearing this, Tara brightened up again. The two began excitedly planning their future riches, discussing which neighborhood to buy property in, what luxury cars to purchase, how they'd clear out designer boutiques every season, and even kicking my dad to the curb. I'd had enough of their chatter and was about to leave when Tara dropped a name that caught my attention. "I've been in a long-distance relationship with Zane forever. Once I lose a bit more weight, I'll finally meet him in person and leave Lena with nothing. In my past life, when Zane and I were together, I never once doubted his loyalty. After all, we'd been together for years, and he always doted on my every whim. But after Sybil and Tara's dark magic made me obese and hideous, costing me my job and bringing endless misfortune, Zane gradually distanced himself from me. I understand that he was unwilling to stay with someone like me, which is quite forgivable. But later in the ICU, when I heard Tara say that she and Zane were about to get engaged so soon, I realized something was wrong. Hearing her words now, I finally know that Zane has actually been cheating for a long time. If that's the case, perhaps I should take the initiative to push things along. I texted Zane, "Darling, I don't know what's happening to me lately. I'm putting on weight and getting pigmentation spots on my face. I've been covering it all up with makeup and clothes, but if this continues, I don't think I can keep working as a model. What should I do?" Zane, who usually replies instantly, remained silent for a long while, though the chat kept showing typing. After what felt like ages, he finally replied, "Lena, have you been overworking yourself? If you're tired, take a break, but don't just give up on modeling. It's such a lucrative career." I persisted stubbornly. "If I give up, will you support me?" Zane completely fell silent. Not long after, Tara came into my room. "Sister, did you have an argument with Zane?" Her tone was caring, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise in a smile. "Perhaps in this life, I didn't show signs of gaining weight and bad luck as quickly as I did in the previous one, so she became anxious and actually challenged me openly before things were settled." I pretended to frown. "What's it to you?" She let out a soft, giggling laugh. "Sister, do you think Zane would still love you if you lost your beauty and your job?" Don't misunderstand me, sister. I mean, Zane is such a handsome guy. If you don't put in the effort, there are plenty of people waiting in line behind you, right? Saying that, she eagerly showed off something, spinning around in front of me. I twitched slightly at the corner of my eye, feeling that she looked a lot like the flattened croissants that have recently become popular. She mumbled something unintelligible while strutting into my room, then took away the empty milk glass from my desk. Sis, you should really cherish these days while they last. The next day, I showed up at the talent agency wearing a face mask, only to spot Tara on site, and the person whose arm she was clinging to, none other than Zane. When he saw me, Zane looked a bit uneasy and turned his gaze away. Tara's eyes lit up with delight when she saw my mask and she greeted me openly and warmly. Wow, big sister, surprised. I've also been hired as a print model. Please take care of me from now on. You've been signed as a model too. Who signed you? She was pierced by my gaze, wanting to lash out, but seemed to think better of it and ultimately held back. Sister, don't be anxious. Soon you'll know exactly what it is that made me a model. She followed her new agent, strutted in high heels, and arrogantly headed to the photo studio for the shoot. I turned my head to look at Zane. He dared not look at me, and stammered, Lena, I'm sorry. I still love you, but you said that as a model, you can't have children to maintain your figure. However, as a man, how can I not have children to carry on the family line? But Tara is different. Tara said that although she is also a model, she isn't afraid of having children, and no matter how many she has, she's confident it won't affect her figure. Why can't you be like her? I asked. The fact that I don't want children isn't something I decided recently. Is it really because of this that you want to break up with me, or is it because I mentioned that day that my health and appearance issues might affect my work, and that's why you're so eager to get rid of me? Zane's face turned bright red. Lena, you're always so aggressive. When will you learn to be gentle and understanding like your sister? Since you already know you can't continue in this profession anymore, why can't you just show some vulnerability and rely on me a little? Play the victim with my wealth and looks. I tolerated that hollow familial affection in my past life at home, but that doesn't mean I'll be anyone's punching bag outside. Why should I grovel to some deadbeat who lives off me? I scoffed. You made your bed, now lie in it. I wonder if Zane will still treasure Tara's docile obedience when she ends up looking like my final incarnation from the previous life. I came to the runway room specially prepared for fashion show practice, and kept practicing my walk and facial expressions over and over again. I didn't wear any makeup today so I could clearly see even the subtlest changes in my facial expressions during the video review. I missed participating in the global supermodel competition in my previous life. I absolutely cannot let it be a regret in this life. I kept practicing my runway walk to let my body memorize the perfect muscle memory. The junior assistant brought me some water. Lena, you wouldn't believe it. The new girl Tara is so high maintenance. The filming crew asked her to adjust her pose, but she insisted on doing things her own way. She pouts and sticks her butt out, and demands breaks every few minutes. It's really hard to work with her. 3. Also, just now when the makeup artist was touching up her makeup, they noticed her neck looked slightly greenish. The artist barely said a word of advice before she started shouting, claiming its high-end olive-toned skin and calling the makeup artist unprofessional. Lena, why did you even let someone like her in here to begin with? Yes, Tara was arranged to come in through a back door after I spoke with the agent. I will let her get everything she wants, and then fall from the clouds. I smiled mysteriously at the junior assistant. You'll just have to wait and see. By the way, did you set up the live streaming equipment I asked for? It's already on, and the live stream has been running. The relevant disclaimers were also written in the contract. I originally prepared a bunch of excuses to pacify her, but that Tara didn't even look at anything except the payment when signing the contract. I opened the live stream connected to the studio where Tara was. Title, The Everyday Life of a Print Model You Don't Know About. I even bought some popularity for it. As soon as I opened it, I saw her sitting to the side resting lazily, arrogantly ordering someone to buy her fried chicken and candied haws. The bullet comments are full of criticism. Is this job really that easy to make money? I've seen her take a break 8 times in half an hour. No way. I've seen professional models shoot before, and it's really hard work. She's not like that at all. Who is she anyway? How big of a star is she? Isn't anyone else noticing her body looks really strange? It's not even about being fat or thin. Also, is it a lighting issue, or is her skin getting greener looking to me? I put away my phone, adjusted my mask, and walked into the lobby. Tara, who had stepped out for some air, gave me a contemptuous smirk. What's the hold up, sis? Couldn't land any gigs because your face went to shit. She popped a greasy piece of fried chicken into her mouth. chewing with exaggerated relish. Everyone else who smelled the odor around her showed disgust on their faces, but she remained completely unaware. I looked back at the staff member who appeared holding live streaming equipment, and he nodded at me. I took out my phone and sent a message to Sybil. Auntie, thank you and Tara for taking care of me during this time. I noticed you've recently enjoyed scratching lottery tickets, so I bought a whole book of them for you to play with. It's under the coffee table in the living room. Whatever you scratch out is all yours. Good luck. After saying that, I turned off the screen and looked straight into Tara's eyes. Do you think being a print model is an easy job? Ask all the seniors here. Doesn't everyone work continuously for several hours straight once the shoot starts? Facial expressions, poses, all require repeated, subtle adjustments many times over. Do you really think everyone here has it easy just because they have a pretty face? And don't forget the makeup artists, lighting crew, and props team behind you. Has any of them had it easier than you? Tara's green face turned bright red. You, who do you think you are, lecturing me? You've enjoyed an easy life all these years just because of your seductive face, and now that I'm about to replace you, you can't wait to put me down. I'll tell you this, don't even dream of it. Saying that, she suddenly ripped my mask off and shouted loudly at the crowd, "Come here, everyone, come and look, see what your top model Lena's face has turned into." Not only that, but she will keep getting fatter from now on. From now on, the only pillar you can rely on is me. I suggest you all treat me nicely. Everyone stared at her as if she were a monkey. Seeing that no one reacted as she had expected, she looked back at me in confusion. Then she screamed, "Impossible, how come your face hasn't changed at all?" She pounced on me, rubbing my face with her fingers. "You must be wearing makeup. Where's your assistant? Get me some makeup remover. Hurry." I slapped her and knocked her to the ground. If I don't hit her now, I might never get another chance. Tara looked at me in disbelief, covering her face. "How dare you hit me? All right, you're finished. You, HMP." It seemed as if she had been pricked by something. She lifted the hand that was supporting her on the ground, looked at her palm in confusion, and saw several tiny white spots densely scattered there. She tried pressing on it and found that it hurt when pressed. Then, hissing through her teeth, she sprang up from the ground. "It hurts. Something is poking me." Hiss. "Why does my foot feel the same way too?" Just as she felt itchy all over, people around her suddenly cried out in alarm. "Look quickly, something is growing on Tara." Not only the people on the scene, but all the viewers in the live stream could clearly see her appearance now. Goodness, what a monster it looks. Looks like a cactus, right? Her green skin and flat body also resemble a cactus. Oh no, it's a monster. At the same time, messages from Sybil kept coming into my phone. "Oh, thank you, Lena. With your words, Auntie can feel at ease. You don't know yet, right? Auntie just scratched up 5 million from the lottery ticket you gave me. But you already said earlier that this was a gift to Auntie, so no matter how much is scratched out, it's all mine." And I even took a screenshot. "My dear Lena, it's actually Auntie and Tara who should be thanking you during this time. It wasn't us taking care of you, it was you who took care of us. You might not understand yet, but that's okay. Auntie thinks you'll know soon enough. This stroke of luck that won 5 million, it's the result of me pouring several days worth of milk mixed with blood into the cactus all at once last night. The moment Sybil taps into this fortune to win 5 million in the lottery, Tara's luck will instantly drain away, turning into a cactus in front of everyone while fulfilling that jinx request. Isn't this the perfect storm? Tara, do you like the gift I prepared for you?" Tara was still screaming right before my eyes. The white thorns of the cactus are slowly growing out of her skin, piercing through it, for there isn't much blood, but it's densely spread, making one's scalp tingle with unease. Ben watched as Zane recoiled in fear. United with me in anger, Tara kept reaching out to him, shouting, Zane, help me, quickly get me some soft blankets." "Ah, it hurts so much." Zane turned a deaf ear, screaming "monster" as he bolted. Chaos ensued as people scrambled about, with someone calling an ambulance. Tara kept hurling curses while being loaded onto the stretcher, its taut surface forcing her protruding spikes back into her body like a bed of nails. Ignoring her cries of pain, I straightened my clothes and walked out, heading home. The live footage must have already spread everywhere. There's still a good show to watch at home. As soon as I opened the door, a ceramic cup flew toward me from inside the house and smashed against the doorframe with a bang, the fragments nearly hitting my eyes. "You still have the face to come back." I wiped my face and smiled. Why wouldn't I have the face to come back? "It's not me who turned into a giant cactus," Sybil shrieked. "You, enough," Dad snapped, blocking the hysterical stepmother. "What happened? How did Tara end up like that?" He turned to me. "Lena, you tell us." As I grew older, prettier, and financially independent, Dad began occasionally siding with me over Tara, who kept putting on weight, but I will never forget how he helped oppress me as a child alongside that mother and daughter, nor will I forget that he cheated on me just a few months after I was born. However, now is not the time to settle accounts with him, I honestly said. Tara has always wanted to be a model. I noticed she had lost some weight recently, so I secretly arranged for her to come to our company for a tryout through a back door. I really didn't expect something like this to happen. Sybil pointed at me and said, "You're lying. You deliberately made Tara embarrassed in front of everyone, otherwise why would everyone else's shoot be normal?" But Tara's photo studio had a live streaming camera following her. I spread my hands and said, "Going through the back door always requires giving up something extra. I want her to shoot a daily vlog as a print model to generate some traffic for the company. Anyway, it's all written in the contract. If she disagrees, she could have simply refused to sign it." Sybil was left speechless and turned to my father, tugging his sleeve with a pitiful expression. "Honey, you've got to help Tara. Look at him now. How can you face the world in the future?" I interrupted. "Have you been to the hospital to see Tara?" They both choked up, just as I expected. My father's finally making it in his career. With Tara's current state going viral, he can't afford this embarrassment, not with relatives and friends behind him, nor business partners in front. And Sybil, she just hit the jackpot with $5 million, only to find her daughter contracted this bottomless pit illness. You really think she wouldn't prioritize herself? If she truly loved her daughter, she wouldn't have let Tara balloon to this size without intervention. These two are all bark and no bite, pretending to defend Tara while actually hoping I'll clean up their mess. Nobody wants that human-shaped cactus anymore. What a perfect match, but as a family, how could I truly ignore my own sister? I said. "Dad, Mom, don't worry, Tara is my sister after all. Even if you didn't say anything, I would still take responsibility for her treatment." When I returned to my room, I found that the cactus on the table was already gone. Seeing Tara's condition and considering what had happened recently, Sybil must have realized that the luck she had been absorbing all along came from her own daughter, but my father was there, so she couldn't say anything. Even if she dared to speak, as a beneficiary of the situation, she might not have wanted to. However, she no longer dared to let me touch this strange cactus directly. Who knows what other methods I might come up with against her? I guess she probably disposed of it, so I checked the surveillance camera I had installed in the room to confirm. I never thought I'd see her hiding the potted plant under my bed. I suppose the recent spiritual practices have given her a taste of benefits she's unwilling to give up. That's wonderful. Life at home was eerily calm. Aside from my occasional hospital visits to see Tara, it seemed like Sybil and my father had silently erased her existence as their daughter. I carried a food container to the hospital. This kind of illness was unheard of, so the hospital could only arrange a separate ward for her, and used lasers daily to remove the thorns from her body, allowing her to at least lie down quietly. As for the blood holes and green skin left behind, no one had the energy or means to deal with them. I placed the food container beside her, took out the low-fat meal inside, and started eating by myself. Tara glared at me, her eyes practically shooting flames. "It's your fault, isn't it?" I scooped up some boiled pumpkin and said, "It wasn't me, liar. If it wasn't you, then who else? Where is my mom? Why won't they come to see me?" 5. Your parents abandoned you. I scooped another spoonful of multigrain rice. That video of you turning into a monster went viral. "They're too ashamed to claim you. You should be thanking me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't even have anyone covering your medical bills now." Tara kept shaking her head, muttering "no way" under her breath. I showed her the message where Sybil bragged about winning $5 million, just to prove Sybil had the money. She just couldn't be bothered to spend it on her. "Your mother is already living a good life on her own. With your fortune and the money she already got, what kind of child couldn't she and your father have?" "Stop daydreaming. If she really loved you, why would she have fed you like a pig when you were little, just to upset me? She stuffed you with all kinds of food, yet she never touched any greasy stuff herself. She knows the truth perfectly well." After I finished eating, I cleared the table and looked down at her from above before leaving the ward. Tara was stunned from receiving too much information. I continued to stir up trouble. "You should think for yourself, without any reason. How would I know there was something wrong with the milk you gave me? She's been tired of you for a long time." Her eyes suddenly became sharp. I fell silent and walked out of the hospital room. Sybil had been living the high life lately. The cactus kept channeling luck for her. She'd moved on from scratch cards to playing the stock market. Meanwhile, my father's career was taking a nosedive. Either a project that was already mostly negotiated was suddenly taken away by a competitor, or a key partner unexpectedly withdrew their cooperation offer. Project delays led to financial strain, team members gradually left, and eventually an internal leak occurred. He wanted to investigate thoroughly but found nothing. In the rush to get things running, he thought he could solve the problems quickly, but instead the situation stagnated, leaving him heavily in debt. He, having run out of options, wanted to sell his house. Sybil, no longer her usual gentle self, directly proposed divorce. You, a grown man, have sunk to the point of selling your house. Why should I stay with you? Divorce, split the property equally. My father has always hated being bossed around by women. Adding to the frustration of this period, the two started fighting each other. You dirty slut, if you hadn't clung to me and crawled into my bed back then, do you think I'd ever look at trash like you? You can't control yourself but still blame others. Did I rip your pants off? The two exchanged verbal and physical blows, revealing each other's secrets while hurling vulgarities back and forth. I was in the middle shouting, "Please don't fight anymore," while running back and forth, taking advantage of the chaos to drag out the already packed luggage and heading to the prepared new house. By then, damn it, later, I heard that the neighbors, noticing the noise growing louder, called the police. Dad's one. I was poked by Sybil and was nearly half blind, but with home surveillance as evidence, it was he who struck first, and since Sybil was also injured, the matter was eventually dropped. In the end, Sybil filed for divorce and took half of the property. During this period, to pay off debts, Dad almost used up all the savings he could access. He finally remembered to ask me for help, but I had already taken the opportunity to move away during the chaos and changed my contact information. Over the years, he neglected me and couldn't find any trace of me, let alone contact my friends. When the verdict came down, he knelt on the ground in despair. The person who was most unwilling to be dominated by a woman ultimately ended up completely ruined by one. Sybil doesn't know that on the same night I last poured milk into the cactus, I had already hidden the real cursed plant in Dad's study. The pot she hid under my bed in my room was just an ordinary cactus I had prepared earlier. After receiving her share of the inheritance, her life has become increasingly smooth, and she seems to no longer care much about draining my fortune. She bought a new house and began living a life of luxury and indulgence. As for me moving out, it seemed to have no effect on her at all. 6. Sybil gradually became known as a stock market god among those around her and was very pleased. With the encouragement of people I had arranged, she started a stock trading training class. Everyone had to pay 10,000 yuan per month to stay in the group, and she guaranteed that everyone would make steady profits without any loss. Such a good thing, of course, should be shared as much as possible. I created a new account, pretending to be a sweet and innocent rich girl in an online relationship, and added Zane. I chatted with him for a few days, then pretended to recommend Sybil's group to him. Brother Zane, my father said he won't let me marry a boy from an ordinary family, but I really like you. This is a group I saw on my dad's computer. My dad said it's really useful. I don't really understand these things. Could you try it out, Zane? Hesitated. When it comes to spending money, he was always cautious. Without a second thought, I transferred 30,000 to him. Zane, just consider it as an opportunity to gain some experience. If you really become a millionaire one day, we can be together openly. The Zane across immediately accepted the transfer. Daisy, you're so great. Unlike my previous girlfriend, when I wanted to invest and asked her to lend me some money, she always said the field is too risky and stopped me from getting involved. In my opinion, are kings and generals born to rule. All rich people were pioneers who dared to take the first bite. How can you ever strike it rich if you're always timid and cautious? Daisy, thank you for believing in me. I promise I won't let you down. I smiled and sent him an encouraging message, then stopped responding. These people who fantasize about overnight success only see how billionaires started from nothing, but ignore how many predecessors failed before them. Since he's so confident, let him go ahead. Then, riding on her previous streak of luck, Sybil enjoyed several months of smooth sailing. Everyone who followed her trades saw guaranteed gains, and she got drunk on the constant praise, acting like she was born with this golden touch. Zane kept bombarding his online crush Daisy with messages, bragging about his achievements. Daisy, I can't thank you enough. Without you, I'd never have access to such reliable insider resources. I followed Sybil's advice and bought some stocks. I've already made some money. In this next move, I will completely turn my life around. Just wait for my visit. After confirming that he had invested all his money in the stock market, I deleted him as a friend and closed my account, as if I had never existed. Soon, Sybil's stock trading group made the news, because she promised steady profits with no risk and lacked legitimate financial investment credentials. She was suspected of illegal fundraising. The people in the group sued her together, and the court ruled that she must compensate for the losses. Her previous income, including lottery winnings, had already been squandered by her extravagant habits. Where would she get the money to compensate? In her desperate situation, Sybil finally thought again of the cactus that absorbs good fortune. She returned to the old house that hadn't been dealt with yet, wanting to secretly take the potted plant under my bed. However, someone was already inside the house waiting for her. Tara was wrapped up tightly, but the smell of blood and sweat still lingered around her. Sybil instinctively covered her nose and mouth, showing a look of disgust. This action immediately provoked Tara. She screamed, "I'm your own daughter. It's because of the dark magic you begged for that I've become like this. How can you despise me?" Sybil felt somewhat guilty. "What have I done to harm you? It's clearly because you're not capable enough. Otherwise, how could I win the lottery and live a good life just from Lena's fortune? If you can't make it, don't blame others. I'm your daughter. You know you're my daughter too, right? How can you talk to your mother like that? No respect for elders." 7. Saying that, she ignored Tara and went straight to my room to find the cactus. Tara's eyes turned red with anger. When Sybil came out holding the potted plant, she saw the cactus that looked exactly like her current self and could no longer hold back. She yanked the cactus out and threw it on the ground, stomping on it repeatedly. Sybil was suddenly pushed by her and despairingly screamed, "Ah, my potted plant, my fortune." She slapped Tara hard across the face. "Good-for-nothing bitch. Can't you stand to see someone else doing well?" Tara gave a bitter smile. "Mom, have you ever truly loved me as your child? You had me just to compete with Lena's mother. You were kind to me only to spite Lena. And now that I'm of no use to you, you're just going to discard me, aren't you, a pawn?" Hearing this, Sybil seemed moved, but in the end, she still avoided her and opened the door, preparing to leave. However, at the moment she reached the stairwell, Tara suddenly attacked without warning. She grabbed her mother and fell down the stairs together with her. Sybil fell on her back, hit her head heavily on the stairs, and was bleeding profusely. Tara then lost consciousness. Hearing the commotion, neighbors opened their doors and, upon seeing the scene, immediately called an ambulance. Sybil suffered severe internal bleeding in the brain, and despite efforts to save her, she could not be revived. During the period when Tara was in a coma, the thorns on her body started emerging again, leaving spots of bloodstains all over the bedsheet. When I went to see her, she had just woken up and was still murmuring to herself, "No, this isn't right. This isn't how it should be. How did I end up like this? I'm a supermodel. I'm an international supermodel." I realized she must have probably been reborn as well. When she saw me appear, she rushed over to attack me. "Lena, you bitch, it's all your fault." I dodged, and she missed completely. Her own spike stabbed back into her body, causing her to cry out in pain. I said coldly, "It's not that I want to harm you. It has always been you who harmed yourselves." She started by cursing loudly, then cried and screamed, appearing to be mad. I watched her plight for a while before leaving, feeling satisfied. This is good. She has returned, and my revenge is now complete. As for her future, it's as if I've donated a sample to the country for thorough research. As soon as I walked out of the hospital gate, a disheveled figure rushed toward me. Lena, help me. It's Zane. I borrowed money from loan sharks, and now they're after my life." The man before me had oily, messy hair, a face full of stains and stubble, nothing like the charming guy who once captivated Tara. His clothes reeked of sourness. He kept rambling, "It's all those online sluts. They tricked me into investing all my money in the stock market. Lena, you're still the dearest to me. I know you still love me. Can't we get back together? I'll never be fickle again. You're my queen. I'll always treat you the best from now on." His manic behavior attracted the hospital security guards. As he was forcibly dragged away, he continued shouting, Lena, please, give me one more chance." His voice scattered in the wind. It sounded to me like the bark of a dog. I returned to my old home. Whack. The house will soon be auctioned by the court to compensate the victim's losses. But it's just a drop in the bucket. I took out the real potted plant that absorbs fortune from the study. Now the cactus has transformed into the human form Tara once had, flesh-colored, plump, and glistening with oil. I lit a fire and burned it. Then I left this house for good, without looking back. The weather outside is perfect. It's less than a month until I participate in the global supermodel competition. In this life, I will fully enjoy the wonderful life that was originally meant for me. Story 2. Last night, I received a message from an unknown number. Tomorrow, the temperature in your area will rise to 70 degrees Celsius. Fend for yourself. At a glance, I recognized that the message was from my best friend who works at an international secret organization, but there wasn't enough time overnight to stockpile supplies and build a shelter, so, in the middle of the night, I knocked on everyone's doors, urging them to flee north to Iceland with me to escape the impending disaster. However, My father thought I was making a fuss over nothing and slapped me twice in anger, cursing as he reminded me that tomorrow was the day he was to be promoted to general manager, and he accused me of jeopardizing his chance for promotion and wealth. My brother thought I was delusional and paranoid, and together with my mother, they tied me up and locked me in my room. The next morning, the high temperatures arrived as predicted. The room felt like a steam room, and sensing the danger, they hurried to the basement for safety. Meanwhile, I was tied up, trapped in a small room surrounded by walls, unable to escape. My mother passed by the kitchen and muttered without offering to unlock my door, "If I let you out, there won't be enough food for the four of us. Who knows how long this heat will last? It's too hot. I'm leaving." As the sun rose, the unventilated room turned into a sauna, and I was steamed alive. When I opened my eyes next, I was back to the night I received the message. This time, I boarded a flight to Iceland alone. At night, the fan in the room blew hot air, and I suddenly woke up from the sticky, humid touch. Sweat trickled down from my hair tips to my neck, a deep, bone-searing heat overwhelming me. I suddenly realized I had been reborn. The thirst from dying of heat was vivid in my memory. Before I could even think, my phone received the same deadly countdown message from my previous life. "Tomorrow, the temperature in your area will rise to 70 degrees Celsius. Fend for yourself." I quickly checked the time on my phone. It was 2 a.m. There were still 4 hours until morning. There was enough time for me to escape this place. In my previous life, when I received the message, I immediately realized it was from my best friend who worked for an international secret organization. She would never lie to me. She had told me to fend for myself countless times since we were children. So, that night, I frantically knocked on doors, trying to make them realize the urgency and escape with me. Unexpectedly, what I received was a curse from my father. "Get lost. I'm going to be appointed general manager by the company tomorrow. Why go to Iceland? Don't block my path to promotion and wealth. If you cause me to miss my promotion tomorrow, I'll flay you alive." My brother, shirtless and with dark circles under his eyes, looked at me with dissatisfaction, ignoring my shouts. He forcefully tied me up and pushed me into the room and locked the door. He stood at the door, mocking, "What apocalyptic heat? You think you know better than the meteorologists? Don't come out before dawn, or the neighbors will think we have a madman in the house." But later, the apocalyptic heat arrived as expected. The three of them pretended not to hear my cries and never opened the door until I had died. As the memories flashed through my mind, my mother spoke through the door, saying if she let me out, there wouldn't be enough food for the four of us. Even before she finished speaking, she complained about the heat upstairs. I left without looking back. After the sun rose, I felt like I was being steamed alive in the room that was like a sauna. I pushed the door open and looked at the other two tightly closed doors in the house. This time, I would no longer risk knocking on their doors, fearing the heat might kill me. In the living room, the relative coolness allowed my thoughts to gather, though the air was still hot and dry. It was cooler than in my room. There were 4 rooms in the house, one for my parents, one for my brother, and my father wanted a tea room, my mother a walk-in closet, so, by default, there was no room left for me. They converted the bathroom on the far east side into my room. It only had a small window, and the sun beating down from the east made the room hot from dawn to dusk. Even so, my family was unwilling to install an air conditioner for me, simply because that room was adjacent to my father's study. When I turned on the air conditioner, he would kick at my door furiously, telling me to keep it down. He complained that the noise from the outdoor unit of the air conditioner disturbed him, so the air conditioner was ruthlessly removed by the workers just a day after it was installed, leaving me with just a fan. I opened the ticketing app and found a flight to Iceland. The flight was at 6 in the morning. I packed the electronic devices and bank cards I would need into a small bag, along with some clothes. At this moment, escaping was the priority. Anything missing could be bought after landing. Most importantly, the passport. I was incredibly relieved that I had my passport in my possession. After our last family trip abroad, my mother planned to keep everyone's passports together. They agreed to lock the passports away in a drawer. By the time I brought my passport to the study, my mother had already locked the cabinet. She looked at me disdainfully for being a bit slow, and out of laziness to open the cabinet again, she let me keep it myself. Now, this gave me a great convenience. I packed my luggage and took my father's car keys from the dining table in the living room. Just as I was about to leave, I heard the sound of a door opening behind me, followed by a gasp. "What are you doing in the living room so late by yourself?" In the next second, I quickly threw my backpack behind the sofa. There was no moon that night, and no lights were on in the living room, so the person did not notice what I did. My brother walked into the living room, cursing under his breath and glaring at me unpleasantly. "What are you doing here?" Trying to sneakily turn on the air conditioner in the living room. "I'll tell Dad you're wasting electricity. He'll kill you." I quickly responded, "No, just getting some air in the living room." He looked at the dense beads of sweat on my forehead and said with schadenfreude, "Ha, good, you deserve to be hot. Hope you roast." After he said that, he carelessly went to the bathroom. I sat quietly in the living room, waiting for the noise from the bathroom to stop. Enduring the sweat dripping down my neck, a few minutes later, the house plunged into darkness again. My brother's room door had been closed for a long time. I picked up my backpack and keys, not looking back as I left. As soon as I entered the underground garage, I felt oppressively hot. I checked my phone. The temperature was already 41 degrees, and there were 3 hours left until the plane took off. I sat in the car, wiping sweat with my hand. The weather was too hot, and the car took a while to start. Once it did, the air conditioning wasn't cooling sufficiently. I couldn't care less. Once the car started, I immediately opened the door and got in. The temperature around me kept rising. In the confines of a sealed space, sweat soaked my neck. I floored the accelerator, and the car moved forward on the urban roads. City A is an international metropolis, bustling even at night with heavy traffic. As time ticked by, the car had barely moved a kilometer. I hurriedly turned on my phone, hoping to complete the check-in process on it. Unexpectedly, another vehicle suddenly scraped the front of my car. The impact slammed my forehead, breaking the skin and causing blood to trickle down. My phone was knocked under the seat. I ignored the wound on my forehead, urgently retrieved my phone, and fixed my gaze on the screen, blurred by falling sweat. Without time to grab a tissue, I wiped the sweat off with the back of my hand. Finally, just 2 hours before the flight, I managed to check in. By then, my back was already drenched in sweat. The person who hit my car was standing outside my window, pointing at my bleeding forehead with an apologetic look. I just shook my head, wiped it with my sleeve, and drove off. I immediately had the navigation set a new route. Since the highway was not an option, I had to take the state road. On the state road, I realized that the minor accident had shattered the left side of my glass. The night's hot wind blew through the broken window onto my face. It wasn't cooling, but it calmed my agitated heart slightly. As the navigation showed I was getting closer to the airport, my tense nerves began to relax. That was until I turned a corner and saw 2 people, seemingly a couple, standing by the road. One of them was in the middle of the road, gesturing as if wanting a ride, but having narrowly escaped death once already. I really had no energy left to concern myself with the fate of others. Time was of the essence, and I couldn't afford any delays. So I steered the car to the side. Unexpectedly, the man, as if anticipating my move, fearlessly blocked my path. To avoid a tragedy, I slammed on the brakes at the last moment. The tires screeched on the road, jarring my already tense nerves. The car stopped just 5 centimeters from the man. The woman, who had been watching from the side, approached my car. Almost reflexively, I pressed the door lock, but the broken glass was now a vulnerability. They could easily smash through it. "Miss, could you give us a ride to the village up ahead?" the man pleaded, his hands on the window, arms reddened and body stooped. As he spoke, his eyes darted around the inside of my car. After a few seconds, once he confirmed I was alone, his gaze began to boldly sweep over me. A strong smell of blood wafted to my nose. I discreetly looked down to see a bleeding scar on the man's waist and a knife hidden behind his back. I pursed my lips, pressing down on my throat, calculating my chances of escape. Were they after my belongings or my life? Which would be faster, him breaking the window or me shifting the gears? With less than 2 hours until dawn, what mattered more, the law or my life? But in the next second, I had an epiphany. In this sweltering heat, with the city paralyzed, many would disregard the law for a chance at survival. Why should I care about others at such a time? Seeing that I remained silent, the man's voice carried an unmistakable excitement. "Just you alone, huh? That makes things easier." Perhaps aware that a woman's strength is generally lesser, another person gradually let down their guard. She moved to the other side of the car, reaching for the door handle. On the left rear side of the car, the woman tugged at the door a few times without success. Growing impatient, "Hurry up and open the door. It's boiling hot. It's just a ride. Are you going to leave us to die?" The man's hands began to gather strength on the shattered glass, his muscles bulging and veins popping under his dark skin. My heart immediately rose to my throat, my muscles tensed, but I kept a calm exterior. "The door's already open. You're just not strong enough. Let him try." The man paused, unguardedly moving towards the rear door. As he stepped away from the front window for a moment, I breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately, my right hand reached for the gear shift and my left gripped the steering wheel, ready to shift gears, when I heard the sound of glass being smashed. "Damn you, you treacherous woman, deceiving us. It's perfect, out here in the middle of nowhere. No one will know if you're dead." Another punch from the man, and the upper part of the teetering glass shattered, leaving only the part connected to the window frame struggling to hold on. But the broken opening was large enough for the man's hand to reach into the car. He suddenly grasped the back of my head, slamming it against the car seat. His arm, reaching through the window, shattered the glass further, pieces falling onto my face, the pain spreading through my body instantly. I could hear the woman's triumphant voice, "Beat her to death, then the car is ours." I've never been in such a nice car in my life. When life is in danger, adrenaline surges and unleashes tremendous determination. The sharp pain on my face numbed me. Ignoring the intense pain, I immediately stepped on the accelerator. The car jerked forward, tires screeching against the ground. The man, seemingly caught off guard by my actual departure, couldn't keep up. Clutching desperately at my hair, I firmly controlled the steering wheel, the car veering close to the guardrail as it sped up. The speed increased, and a piece of my scalp was brutally torn away. Behind the car, wails echoed. Enduring the severe pain in my scalp and the blood on my face, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The man was dragged a few meters by the car before being thrown to the ground, face down. Under the dim street lights, I could vaguely see a large stain of blood on the ground. In fact, had he chosen to let go when I drove off, he wouldn't have been dragged. He brought this on himself. I averted my gaze, grabbed some tissues from the passenger seat, quickly tended to the wounds on my face, and continued to accelerate. The car sped away, and following the recent turmoil, the sky was beginning to lighten. It was now 5 a.m. I can make it. I definitely can. I silently urged myself, pressing the accelerator to the floor, but the next second, the car began to shake violently and uncontrollably came to a stop. I looked at the dashboard, my face turning pale. The tire had blown out. At this point, I was only a kilometer from the airport. I decisively grabbed my backpack and abandoned the car, continuing on foot. The hot, sticky wind blew through my long hair, also sweeping the sweat from my forehead onto the asphalt road. I felt as if I had been soaked in water, with sweat relentlessly streaming down my body. At this moment, I was immensely grateful that my mom had insisted on me running to school on my own every day as a form of exercise. I could complete this 1-kilometer journey in the shortest possible time, not stopping until I passed the last gate. I sprinted into the airport. As soon as I entered, a wave of cool air dispersed the anxiety in my heart. I ran all the way to the boarding gate, and amidst the surprised looks of the airport staff, I checked in with my phone and boarded the plane just in time. Sitting in the cabin, I finally realized that I was truly going to survive. It wasn't summer vacation or peak travel season, so there were only a few people in the cabin, all dozing off under the operation of the air conditioning. Apparently, everyone was unprepared for the impending high-temperature disaster, merely thinking that this year was a bit hotter than usual. The plane slowly took off as the captain made his announcement, heading north. Sitting by the window, I could even see the clouds shaking and the heat waves swirling in the air. Above City A red sun was slowly rising, its color unnaturally and piercingly red. My phone chimed the hour, 6 o'clock. On the plane, a flight attendant tended to my wounds and provided me with a set of clean clothes. After changing in the restroom, I gradually calmed down. Then, connecting to the cabin's Wi-Fi, I received a message notification from the government of City A. Urgent notice: today's temperature is expected to rise to 50 degrees Celsius. Residents are advised to take precautions against the heat, avoid going out unless necessary, and all work departments should cease operations immediately to prevent heatstroke and sunstroke. The high-temperature apocalypse was truly upon us. Just like in a past life, it was only 6 a.m, yet the temperature was already unbearably high. The flight from City A to Iceland would take 5 hours, and I fell into a deep sleep in my seat. When I awoke again, the plane had landed. I turned on the surveillance to watch every movement at home. In the footage, my younger brother was the first to react, shirtless as he pushed the door open and yelled, "It's so hot, too hot, is the air conditioning not working?" He said this as he took a cup of ice water from the fridge and downed it in one go. My mom came out sweating profusely, holding a small fan, and sat on the sofa, fanning herself with both hands. The outdoor temperature was too high for the central air conditioning to be effective. My dad, seemingly unresponsive, was neatly dressed in a suit, ready to go to work. "Today is the day I get promoted to general manager, even if it rains knives. I have to go," he said, then took his briefcase and left the house. Some people prioritize money over their lives. However, less than 10 minutes after stepping out, my mom's phone rang. It was my dad's urgent voice on the other end. "Quick, go to the supermarket, buy food, and take shelter in the basement." It turned out that shortly after my dad had left the house, he got stuck at an intersection. The meteorologists were also unable to immediately explain the sudden rise in temperature. There was nothing to do but for people to stay at home and wait for the high temperature to subside before rescue could arrive. People were in a state of panic. Many began to flee to cooler regions, hoping to temporarily avoid the damage from the high temperatures. But there was more than one wise person. Suddenly, the roads, highways, and provincial roads were congested with cars. Even today, the frequency of car accidents is higher than usual. Seeing the situation was not right, my father could only settle for the next best thing and chose to stay at home. Hearing the urgency in my father's voice, my mother realized the seriousness of the situation and immediately started to get ready to leave the house. My brother is a lazybones. As soon as he heard about going out in such hot weather, he immediately lay down on the sofa, motionless, and kept complaining, "It's just the air conditioning at home that's broken, just get someone to fix it. What's this about an end of high temperatures and needing to go out to stock up on supplies? Is that really necessary?" Seeing that my brother was uncooperative, my mother immediately thought of me and started kicking at my door. "Savannah, come out quickly, we need to go to the supermarket to stock up, the heat wave is coming." I watched my mother desperately banging on my door through the surveillance camera, feeling a chill in my heart. See, she only remembers me when she needs something, otherwise, she never thinks of anything good for me. Her precious son is too precious to her. Now when it's a race against time to grab supplies, my brother's physique could be very useful in helping her grab more, but she's worried about him getting too hot from the sun. Seeing no movement inside the room, her patience gradually wore thin, and she began to curse incoherently. "You dead girl. Sleeping like a pig. Did you hear me telling you to open the door? When the high heat comes and kills you, we won't share any food with you." It's hard to imagine these are words a mother would say to her daughter. Even though I've been through death once, my heart still inevitably aches. Seeing that there was still no response, my brother stepped back and kicked the door open, only to see an empty room. I finished going through security, smiling at their astonished expressions. Stepping out of the airport, a gust of wind from Iceland, carrying a hint of coolness, brushed against me, sending shivers down my spine. The English I had struggled to learn also came in handy, and I managed to quickly exchange money at a local bank and rent a room using my fluent conversational skills. 10. The high-temperature climate began extending northward from the equator. Iceland, near the Arctic Circle, has very low temperatures and is unlikely to experience sudden rises in temperature in the short term. Not long after lying down on the bed, my phone rang. Clicking to answer, I heard my mother's anxious voice from the earpiece. "You dead girl, where have you gone? Come back and help me raid the supermarket for groceries. If we're any later, there won't be anything left." I opened the yard surveillance to see my mother heading to the garage, sweat dripping down her face like rain. I wrapped myself tighter in the blanket, squinting on the bed, and slowly said, "Mom, I'm not at home, I'm on a business trip. I can't make it back right now. You go to the supermarket and stock up by yourself. What do I know about what groceries to buy? What supplies to stock up on? Isn't this always something you do?" Her real thoughts came out with my refusal. Listening to her irritable blame, I sneered inside. Since I was 16, I had been responsible for the daily meals at home. Hiring a housekeeper wouldn't have been a burden at all, but they were unwilling, just thinking about draining me in the limited time they had, grinding me down to the fullest. The malice of human nature is so unreasonable and boundless. Thinking this, I suddenly changed my mind. Now is definitely the time to stock up. Make sure to buy plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits to ensure a balanced intake of nutrients. 11. Also, stock up on some of the cookies and snacks that my brother loves, and buy more of the ham that Dad likes. My mom has lived her life as a wealthy housewife, lacking basic common sense, always living a life of luxury, never having witnessed such chaos. Naturally, she took my word as law. Little did she know that under high temperatures, vegetables and fruits can't be preserved for long before they rot, and snacks like cookies consume a tremendous amount of water resources. Even ham needs salt to be preserved for extended periods. Who would think of eating ham to sustain life in a water outage? Encouraged by me, Mom started a video call and entered the supermarket. Upon entering, she was stunned. It was packed with people hastily grabbing items from the shelves. Though there was a semblance of peace, undercurrents of tension flowed beneath. Through the video, I saw many people slyly competing to snatch food from others. Security guards, with megaphones in hand, tried to maintain order at the scene. It's hard to imagine that this fragile order will hold when the temperature becomes unbearable. Seeing the chaos, Mom panicked and quickly joined the rush to grab vegetables, but accustomed to her luxurious life, she lacked the agility of others and couldn't even make it to the center of the shelves, instead just circling the edges helplessly. Unable to push her way through, she frowned at the frantic crowd and scoffed. "They're behaving like beggars. Have some decency." Ignoring the disdainful and amused looks from those around her, she headed straight for the snack aisle. She only took a few steps before she dashed over 12 because, surprisingly, even the usually overlooked snack aisle was nearly empty in these apocalyptic times. Even the smallest fly is considered meat. Unable to maintain her usual elegance, Mom Started grabbing items from other people's carts. In a life or death situation, food is the hope of survival, and no one is willing to yield their resources. The woman from whom the snacks were snatched was no pushover. She slapped my mom across the face. Then, a scuffle ensued in front of the shelves. The woman, taller and stronger, grabbed my mom by the hair and dominated the altercation with several more slaps before leaving. With a face marked by 5 finger imprints, Mom was about to seek justice when I urgently called out to her, "Just buy up the rest of the snacks, and get the ham Dad loves. This is no time for grievances." With her hair a mess and her face swollen, she went to the frozen section. After she finished shopping, I spoke up, "Mom, buy me some yogurt, I love it." It was a test, using the last bit of affection to add a glimmer of hope to their bleak future. Yogurt is more refreshing than spicy strips, cookies, or similar snacks, as long as she still had some feelings for me. Unsurprisingly, I heard her refuse. "You didn't come shopping with me, and now you want yogurt. There's no room in the cart. Maybe next time." She said this while loading a few boxes of sushi and 2 large bottles of juice and cola. Hearing her response, I promptly hung up sadly. "My dear Mom, there won't be a next time. You'll just have to make do with these items and face the unbearable heat with Dad." 13. Finally, Dad made it home after navigating through sluggish traffic. His face was flushed as he pushed open the door, his shirt soaked with sweat. Yet, upon seeing the groceries Mom had bought, not only did he lack sympathy for her injuries, he kicked the food aside in anger. "This is what you bought. What's the use of this junk? Don't you know that the biggest fear in high temperatures is the loss of water and electricity? Fruits and vegetables simply can't be stored long term, and what's the use of these snacks and ham?" She lamented. "It seems you've been living the life of a wealthy lady for too long, so much so that you've lost all common sense of everyday living." My mother had planned to complain to my father when he returned, but instead, she was met with criticism and verbal abuse. Facing the accusations, she threw a tantrum. "So, you're fed up with me now, is that it? I was bullied by those shrews, went through so much trouble to buy food for us, and if you're not satisfied, you can go get it yourself." After saying that, she sat on the sofa in the basement and sobbed. As I watched the scene through the surveillance camera, I leisurely toured around Iceland, making mental notes of the city's layout, remembering where the large supermarkets and wholesale markets were located. It turned out that the relationship among the 3 of them wasn't as unbreakable as I had thought. In a moment of crisis, they had unanimously decided to sacrifice me first. Now, without me as their scapegoat, I was curious to see who they would choose to sacrifice first. Under the conditions of food and water shortage, by 2 p.m., the outdoor temperature had soared to 65 degrees Celsius. The transportation system was completely paralyzed. Planes were grounded due to the high temperatures in the atmosphere. Those who had planned to fly near the Arctic Circle were stranded at the airports. Meanwhile, I was not idle and had already started to take precautions. The number that had once sent me a distress message was silent, no matter what means I tried to contact it. No one knew how long the heatwave would last, or whether it would affect the areas near the Arctic. After making repairs, I immediately raided the local supermarket. I first went to the wholesale market and bought dozens of boxes of instant noodles, then to the furniture market to buy 3 refrigerators. At the slaughterhouse, I picked up 40 pounds of beef and lamb chops. Being close to the sea, Iceland's seafood was particularly cheap, and I bought 80 pounds of fresh shrimp and fish. After loading the last cart of food into the house and installing 5 solar panels following an online tutorial, I finally felt at ease. There was no greater sense of security than having my supplies stocked up. While I was busy installing air conditioning, the basement at home was filled with smoke and curses could be heard occasionally. The basement, rarely used and poorly maintained, had only an old air conditioner. The scorching sun made the inside unbearably hot. The air conditioning was not enough to combat the high temperatures outside. With only a slight coolness near the vent, the 3 of them were fighting over who got to stand in front of the air conditioner's vent. My father, trying to push my brother aside, found it impossible to move him due to his large size. Frustrated, he cursed at my brother. "Damn you, fighting with your own father over this. Move aside and let me cool down." My brother, spoiled from childhood and always selfish, naturally stood his ground. He firmly occupied the spot in front of the vent, even hugging the air conditioner on both sides. "If you let me cool down, what about me? Didn't you always tell me that the winner takes all? If you can push me away, then do it. Otherwise, don't expect me to let go." I watched through the surveillance camera as my father's face turned ashen with regret. My brother's character, a product of endless indulgence and guidance, both intentional and unintentional, during his childhood, was something I had warned about. I had told them that fostering a Child's selfish nature could worsen as they grew up. However, my father had always believed that in today's society, if you don't fight, you end up with nothing. In the face of interests, the victor is king. At this moment, the bullet struck right between the eyebrows. Now, he watched the son he had raised wield the very words he taught him like a sharp blade, mercilessly stabbing at him in a life-or-death moment. Hearing this, my dad was furious. He grabbed the baseball bat from behind the door and swung it with all his might. In a sweltering environment, it's truly difficult for people to keep their cool. My younger brother guessed that my dad wouldn't actually hit him, while my dad thought my brother would move out of the way. In the end, neither backed down. At the last moment, the thick baseball bat harshly struck the back of my brother's head. "Ah, Changlong, how are you doing?" Screams echoed in the basement. On the monitor, my brother fell to the ground like a puppet without support. My mother, frantic, crawled over to him and shook him vigorously. Seeing no response, she turned to my dad and started hitting and kicking him. "You've killed my son. I want your life. Nobody should live." I watched the sweaty bodies of the three, laughed heartily, turned the air conditioning up a few degrees, and pulled out a blanket from the closet to cover myself. The joys and sorrows of humanity do not resonate with me. I only find them noisy. The coolness of the air conditioning gradually brought my dad back to his senses, standing there dazed. Fortunately, my dad had not struck lethally. A few minutes later, my brother woke up from my mom's shaking. He glared fiercely at my dad. Father and son looked at each other, saying nothing. My dad stood at the air conditioning vent, like my brother, unyielding, enjoying the cool breeze. Some say that in the face of disaster, you should be cautious of your own kind. Even family, blood, and kinship mean nothing in the face of human nature's perils. The priority is simply to survive. The recent argument and fight left everyone agitated and uncomfortable. My brother picked up a Coke from the ground and downed it, but, in a state of dehydration, drinking a sugary beverage only made him thirstier. The only big bottle of mineral water was tightly held in my dad's arms. Now, with the temperature outside already at 70 degrees Celsius, no one dared to risk going upstairs. The three of them remained in a stalemate, and tensions grew until my brother couldn't bear it anymore. He said to my mom, "Mom, could you go upstairs to get some water and food?" At that moment, my dad also gave her a coercive look, his eyes threatening. Seeing both her beloved son and husband pressuring her, my mom fully realized she was being left out. "It's already 70 degrees outside. How can I go upstairs? I'll be cooked alive. Do you want me dead? If you don't go, who will? Unless someone else goes in your place." My brother made a snide remark on the side. Immediately, their eyes met, as if they had come up with an idea. The next second, my phone rang. Seeing the scheming in their eyes, I just felt a pang in my heart. Look, when it came to presenting a united front, it was always against me. Ever since she went down to the basement, she never asked about my well-being, but when it came time to find someone to replace her, she thought of me. The weak only bully those weaker than themselves. Meanwhile, I had already gotten up from the bed, eating chilled watermelon and ice cream. Tom and Jerry was playing on the TV. Seeing the video call notification on my phone, I quickly ran to the bathroom to wet my hair and slapped my face to make it red. Before they could complain, I took the initiative. "Savannah," before my mother could finish speaking, my voice overpowered hers. "Mom, where are you? I'm so hot and thirsty. Please bring me some water. Save me. Hurry." Seeing how weak I looked, she immediately ended the call, afraid that I would slow her down. When the video cut off, I could still faintly hear my brother's voice. "She's already like this. Don't let her come back to plague us. We have no water or food. She's just a burden." Hearing this, the last bit of conscience in me dissipated completely. With no one else to take over, my mom had to muster the courage to go upstairs. As she opened the door to the basement, the wave of heat distorted her silhouette on the surveillance camera, but I knew my mom probably wouldn't make it back to the basement. Our house, a villa, had all its windows on the first floor tightly shut. Under the high temperatures, the air blown out was hot. In the sealed space, the hot air couldn't escape the rooms and kept cycling back, getting hotter and hotter, even exceeding the outdoor temperatures. It was like the steam in a steamer basket. The first floor had turned into a giant steamer, and anyone going upstairs would be cooked alive. I turned off the living room surveillance, unable to watch the scene of a living person being cooked. I also stopped paying attention to what was happening in the basement. The father and son either fought each other to death over the remaining food and water, or they worked together to ration their resources, which might allow them to survive a bit longer, but the end result would still be death by heat or thirst. 10 days passed, and the high temperatures near the equator gradually moved north, heating up even Iceland. At night, I had to turn on two air conditioners and set them to the lowest temperature just to barely fall asleep. A month later, a sudden prehistoric deluge finally extinguished the intense heat. Several days of rain also lowered the temperature in Iceland. The weather finally returned to normal. The news reported on the high temperatures, revealing that this month-long heatwave had reduced the Earth's population by 1.5 billion. When I turned on the surveillance and saw the scene in the basement, I gasped. My dad's body was covered in maggots, resembling a dried-up corpse, slumped in front of the air conditioner. My brother had his skull hollowed out, his mouth wide open in a grotesque expression of agony, his face swarmed with flies, his hands clutching an empty mineral water bottle. Both of them had died in the basement. I then dragged the video timeline back, wanting to understand exactly what had happened. The surveillance showed that not long after my mom died, my brother, desperate with thirst, forcefully tried to snatch the mineral water from my dad's hands, but my dad, a full-grown man, was not weak. The two of them fought like wild animals in the room, tearing and biting, completely losing the warm father-son relationship they once had. Without mercy, my brother bit my dad's hand, trying to make him let go through pain. My dad responded by pounding on the back of my brother's head. The people who love you know where it hurts the most. Suddenly, my brother clung to my dad's legs, pleading for mercy. After all, he was the child my dad had raised from a young age. Seeing my brother kneeling and begging softened my dad's heart, and he hesitated to hand over the water. Unexpectedly, my brother, leaving no room for mercy, used his head to knock my dad to the ground and reached for the bottle. In their struggle, the water bottle was not held securely, and the remaining water spilled onto the scorching floor. My brother tried to lick the water off the ground, but it was futile. In just 2 seconds, the water had evaporated. Neither of them got to drink, as their last hope vanished. Endless despair followed. He roared in the room, his voice hoarse from dehydration. It's all your fault. The water spilled on the floor. Now no one can drink it. We're all going to die. Under the high temperature, both gradually lost their sanity, desperately needing an outlet for their frustration. Thus, in the basement, they attacked each other with every tool they could find, like beasts trapped in a fight to the death, struggling to the very end, until not a shred of strength remained, succumbing to death by dehydration. I finished watching the video and wrapped myself tightly in the blanket. It had been raining for several days, and the temperature in Iceland had dropped to 0 degrees due to the rain. Bored, I was aimlessly browsing the internet until I came across a post by a netizen. His post claimed that the recent extreme heatwave was a human elimination plan orchestrated by an international secret organization, and that an extreme cold spell was soon to follow. Just as I was about to consider this further, the post disappeared. The page displayed a 404 error. Just when I thought it must have been a pointless prank by the netizen, an unknown number messaged me again. I hurriedly called back, only to find the number was out of service at that moment. It was precisely 2 o'clock in the morning. The message was brief. Tomorrow, the temperature in your area will plummet to -70 degrees Celsius. Good luck.